Did you ever think you would make it? I feel I'm so close I could take sweet victory. I know this life meant for me.
Adam, what's your point? The future looks bright.
My handshake is better than anything I ever signed. It's right here.
You are a one-of-one?
My son's right about
I don't think I've ever said this before.
Okay, so home team episode 575 with the one and only Benny Johnson in the house.
Benny? What's going on, guys?
All right. So, by the way, Benny, we just want to make sure, I know sometimes people are recording stuff like this. Benny jumped the fence to come here today.
Yes,
like
he
literally.
did. I did.
He jumped the fence. He landed on a plane. And
That's
then
right.
didn't want to wait till the airport opened the doors. He jumped the fence, came in, but he did it legally.
Yeah, but security came and was like, do you know the, we're like, yo no sé, Benny.
sé.
And just, yeah.
¿Dónde está Tom Holman, Benny?
Yeah.
What happened?
Yeah.
And actually, he was in a plane. On a plane would have been even more spectacular.
Yes.
I'm going to learn. I mean, I'm going to learn. I think I want the deportation experience. You know, I want. You can get a free trip to Venezuela. You can get a free trip to El Salvador.
Yeah.
This is,
Maybe
this
not
is
now.
a very cheap way to take a vacation.
That's 4 months ago. You would have had it. Now there's this guy that doesn't like that kind of stuff. He doesn't want to send you to, he's not. So we're going to see what's going to happen. But everybody said they were impressed by the way you jumped the fence. And they said it didn't look like it was your first. So whatever that is, I mean, maybe there's a history to it. But
I just want to say, and I came all the way here to say this, that I am thankful that I'm not wearing my Ron DeSantis Ferragamos today.
Yeah.
That is my favorite PBD moment.
Yeah.
If I want some motivation in the morning, I watch it. And I think, okay, if PBD offered me a pair of Ferragamos, what would I do? I'm wearing New Balances today. But what happened there was so viral and so special.
Yeah.
And the heels, did we ever get to the bottom of that? Are there heels in the boots?
But
do we
boot
know?
gates.
Do we have forensics of this? Did anybody ever decide?
what do they call it? Bootgate, right?
Bootgate.
Bootgate ended up being
Yes.
called, it was all over the place. But all he had to do was either receive it or have some fun with it. That's all he had to do. All he had to do is when Jimmy Fallon said, hey, your hair is whatever, and he said, here, touch it.
Yeah,
I got to
touch it,
go to
mess it
Rhode
all
Island.
up.
And
Yeah.
That's all. It was that kind of a moment we were hoping to have, but it didn't happen, and Rob still has the picture. But anyway, hey, for what it's worth, we have to say this. This is the very important disclaimer. We came here for his policies.
Yep.
And we're here because he's a phenomenal governor.
Yes.
I only had one issue with him. All he had to do was call Trump before he ran and gone to Mar-a-Lago.
That's it.
That's the only thing. If you didn't do that, it would have been a different story, but we'll see what's going to happen. Now, by the way, you may have his wife as a governor here soon, so it's either going to be her or Byron Donald. So this may be like a DeSantis for 8 more years. So brace for impact.
What do you think about that? What do you think about that? Because a lot of people are like, wait a second, we don't know Casey DeSantis.
Yeah.
We think it's nepotistic.
Well-
Does she have the qualifications to be governor? It'd just be Ron running everything behind the scenes anyway, which I think some people would be okay with. I'm Team Byron. I like Byron.
Right.
Byron's my boy. I've worked with him before. He's been on the show all the day. Like he's ready to go. He's a new generation. But I understand like people like the DeSantis governorship and policies here.
Mm-hmm.
This is one of the reasons why I moved my business and family to Florida, actually. And
You
so-
moved here from where?
Washington, D.C.
How long ago?
4 years ago.
Same here. We moved
Yeah.
from Texas to here. And we love it. So you probably love it as well on the Tampa side.
Yes.
Yeah. So to me, if you're asking a question about what I think,
Yeah.
we went to the governor's mansion in whatever.
Probably 2
Tallahassee,
years ago, right before
2 years
he,
ago,
announced.
in a small setting with 15 people in the room, and she was so impressive. I cannot tell you how impressive she is. So as much as Ron is not comfortable. Like he's not, there's guys that are such great operators, but they're just not good with people. They're not comfortable there, right? That's not his MO. You're not going to sit there and say, this is the guy that's going to land a speech from stage and people are going to run out wanting to run through the wall for the guy. It's not going to happen. But he's a very good operator, and he's a fighter. Casey is presentable, very well-spoken. Similar policies to her husband, I would assume. What is she going to campaign on? Well, there's one thing I disagree with the previous governor here in the state. I would have done this much better. That's not going to work out, right? So it's literally.
I told him the other night in the domestic, and he slept in the garage. Yeah, I kicked his ass out.
So then the other side with Byron, what I love the most, I love competition. I love competition. So the more the Byron, the Casey, I hope a handful of other people get into it. The more competition we have, the better it's going to be, specifically on the conservative side. The biggest highlight, there's a lot of talent there. That's why the future looks bright with the state of Florida. We got to keep it that way. Let me go through some of the stories, and then we'll get right into the podcast. So Couple things with tariffs. A lot's been changing. A lot. EU came out and said, we're going to approve new retaliatory tariffs on the U.S. And then this morning, they're changing their position at 7:05 a.m. based on what Tom just told me right now. So there's a lot of updates with tariffs. We're going to give you a whole timeline. New York Times had a great article giving the specific timeline of what's happened on, off, to just kind of track it for some of you guys that actually have a life and you're doing other things. You have a job, career, your kids. We'll give you the timeline so you kind of know what's going on there. Kramer shares 4 lessons from the Trump tariff turmoil. Let's see how good these lessons are. And then, here's which grocery stores items will get more expensive because of tariffs. Canada spectacularly bended the knee to the U.S. as Trump scores major victory over the 51st state. And then Fox host fumes about media focusing on economic pain of Trump's tariffs. It's mind-boggling. I'm not surprised, but we'll talk about it. Trump declares he would absolutely bomb Iran if it refuses to give up its bid for nuclear weapons. Dow goes up 2,900 yesterday. I think it was the third largest day in the history of the market for the Dow. And S&P posted the biggest gain since 2008. For some of you guys that follow sports, something happened. This coach named Michael Malone, who's actually a pretty good coach, won the championship, all of a sudden gets fired. Some are saying it was Westbrook's fault. Some are saying it was, a bunch of stories there. We may have some kind of story all the way at the end. We'll talk about that. Trump assassination attempt suspect Ryan Routh sought rocket launcher from Ukraine. You read a story like this. So what did you do this weekend? I tried to buy a rocket launcher. I went to Walmart. They didn't have it.
Really?
So I went to Ukraine to see if they have a discount at their...
Did they report it? Did they report it to the...
I don't know if they did
I
or
think
not.
so.
Florida State approves a ban on geoengineering and weather modification. Ben Shapiro says Peter Navarro should be nowhere near trade policy. CIA probed photo of Hitler in Colombia years after the war. And then on the addendum, Anderson Cooper, out of all people, folks, and Benny, you know this.
This is sad.
How dare he misgender someone?
I almost broke the TV.
Like, seriously,
I couldn't believe it.
You
He
have to
misgendered
see this.
somebody.
What did he do?
No, I know.
The fact that he doesn't know that she wanted to be called they, them.
Unbelievable.
It's a big disappointment for CNN. I mean, they missed their opportunity.
Can she sue them?
You
That was
shouldn't
their
have hired a
chance.
Vanderbilt. I'm
That was
telling you,
their
those
chance.
people.
Trump announces 90-day pause on reciprocal. We'll talk about that. NASDAQ soars. We'll talk about Kevin O'Leary says 400% is what he wants. Mr. B says it's cheaper now, and it'll be way cheaper to make Feastables chocolates outside of the U.S. because of Trump's tariffs. Apple is racing to fly planes of iPhones into the U.S. ahead of the tariffs. The stock market will go down 80% when this is over, says bearish investor Mark Spitznagel.
Good one.
I screwed that one up. Yes, Chinese
God bless you.
launches racist humiliation campaign mocking Trump's tariffs. Wall Street to cut China's growth forecast. And then there's a few other stories. Jamie Dimon says we're going to go into recession. Larry Fink's got a few things to say. And then Panama files criminal charges against Chinese-linked canal port owner for breach of contract. I love that story. We'll talk about that. Now, today, Rob, can you do me a favor? Go to eBay. Let me tell you how crazy our audience is. We want to have 1 million people wearing the Future Looks Bright gear. So this is some of you that buy Future Looks Bright gear and the numbered ones, and some of you that go and put it on eBay. Look at this, $400, 1 out of 50, $199.
That's me on the
gray
left,
one.
man.
Can you go to the user one?
Hat number
Rob,
1.
10 grand.
Is that 1 out of 250?
Yes.
But he got the 1 out of 250? That's good for him. What's the user's name? Can we see? What is the user's name?
Rob Gargiulo.
No, it's not me.
Okay, go back.
Zone
Interesting.
service.
10 grand. Go back one, Rob, to see what else is up there.
Rob, that would have been so
Okay,
funny.
go back if you can, Rob. Okay, they go lower. So that's another one numbered. Another one, the 45, 47 numbered. Keep going lower. More of them numbered that are selling.
$3,000.
Holy moly, that's a 43 out of 50. Okay, so here's what we're doing today. This one took us a while to get, and I'll explain to you why. This is the box, Valuetainment. If you ordered this hat, when you open it up, the box right there, you see the
Nice.
Future Looks Bright in gold. And then there's a card in there from me to you. And this hat took a while to make for one specific reason. So this is a numbered out of 250, okay? And this says Future Looks Bright, and all of it is embroidered. This is not like a wing job. All of it says Future Looks Bright all around the hat. Black, sick hat that just got launched this morning, numbered out of 250 at 99.
Get on it.
First come, first serve. Just so you know how this works. These go like hotcakes. In no time, this goes. So within 30 minutes, this will be gone. But if you're one of the people that collects these numbered hats, we will not be doing this one again, specifically with this color, black and white, future looks bright, numbered out of 1 out of 250. Go to vtmerch.com, place your order. By the way, look at this, Vinny. Even down here, the way it is.
Like if I bought one right now, so somebody's going to get the number one right now.
Whoever orders, someone's going to get the number one. So, but anyways,
Benny,
that'll be in the box. With the box, the whole nine. Now, when we get the shipments with Future Looks Bright, you know what's coming in. This to know that it's coming strictly from us. Go to vtmerch.com, place your order. Okay, with that being said, let's get right into the stories of what's going on today with tariffs. Let me give you the timeline of what's going on with tariffs. Tom, I'm going to come to you, then Benny, I'll come to you next. All right, so timeline on tariffs. January 20th, hours before being sworn in, Trump announced 25% tariffs on Canada and Mexico starting February 1st. January 26th, he announced immediate 25% tariffs on all goods from Colombia, rise to 50% in a week. After Colombia turned back deportation planes, Colombia agreed to all the president's terms within hours. February 1st, then Trump signed an executive order imposing 25% tariffs on nearly all goods from Canada and Mexico and 10% on China, citing fentanyl smuggling and illegal immigration. Canada and Mexico planned retaliation. China threatened countermeasures. The second, facing criticism, Trump acknowledged on social media become an economic downside, saying, will there be some pain? Yes. Maybe, maybe not. The third, he paused the tariffs on Mexico and Canada for 30 days while threatening new tariffs. On the fourth, 10% tariffs on Chinese imports took effect. China retaliated with additional tariffs on products. Seventh, he planned to broaden his trade war with reciprocal tariffs. 10th, another 25% on foreign steel and aluminum, reviving a first-term policy. 13th, outlined broad reciprocal tariffs. 14th, confirmed plans to unspecified tariffs on foreign cars starting April 2nd. 25th, executive order task on Commerce Secretary Lutnick with investigating its foreign copper production. This kept going. Then it went to 13th of March, citing EU's planned 50% tariffs on whiskey. Mr. Trump proposed a 200% tariff on EU's wines. 24th, he set a 25% tariff. Effective second, all exports from U.S. counting buying Venezuela oil. 26th, 20% tariff on all cars and car parts shipped into U.S., including American brands. 29th, said he couldn't care less if car prices rose due to his tariffs. Obviously, they're not telling the whole story. Then 31st, Trump declared no exemptions for tariffs starting April 2nd. 10% tariff on the second, hit all nations across the board. Then the fourth, China's finance ministry imposed a 34% tariffs on all imports. Trump planned a 34% tariffs on China and barred 11 U.S. companies. Then on the 5th, 45-day delay with Vietnam because they were the first to come out. Then Bangladesh on the 7th sought a 3-month reprieve from U.S. tariffs. All of this is going on. And in the interim, EU comes out saying we're going to have retaliatory tariffs. And then this morning, Tom, specific to EU, can you give us an update what they just did this morning?
Yeah, there she is. Now, the prime ministers and the presidents in Europe, they want to go out with populist anti-Trump messaging, and they want to go scream and pound their fist. So they send her out, who's the president of the EU Commission, Ursula von der Leyen, and she's the mouthpiece for the economic Europe. And so she comes out at 7:05 today. We are pausing on our retaliatory tariffs. And it's because Europe was looking over at China and seeing Trump says, I'll see your 75 and I'll raise you 100. And they don't want to play that poker game. And so Europe has come back and said, we'd like to negotiate and we're going to pause our retaliatory tariffs. She was the one that also said 3 days ago, Europe recognizes a good deal when we see it and we want a good deal, if anybody saw her comments. So that's what's going on with her. Why is everyone so surprised? Why is everyone so surprised? Trump ran on tariffs and said two things. I'm going to get fairness back for America. There's tariffs out there that we don't know about. And I want fairness, and I want to bring jobs and manufacturing back to America. I'm running on tariffs. It's the most beautiful word. So why is everybody so surprised? Why is the timeline here from the New York Times? Why is this timeline? Because it's a negotiation. Negotiations go back and forth, back and forth. Want to learn about negotiation? Come to the vault. Come see us. PBD talks about negotiation. Negotiation is not, hi, how you doing? How about 6? Yeah, okay, all right, bye. That's not how negotiation works. It goes back and forth. And on an international stage, people are playing to their home audience, playing to their parliaments, playing to a lot of things, and it goes back and forth.
Is this the tweet, Rob?
Yes, this came out at 2:19 a.m. our time this morning.
Oh, so that would
Genius.
be, so that's, I welcome President Trump's announcement to pause reciprocal tariffs. It's an important step. Clear, predictable conditions are essential in trade supply chains. Tariffs are taxes that only hurt business and consumers. That's why I've consistently advocated for zero tariff agreement. That's good. EU remains committed to its conservation of because at the same time, Europe continues to focus on diversifying trade policy, engaging with countries that account for 87% of our global trades. You know what she's saying. We're not. What does 87 mean? That means U.S. is 13. That's what she's saying there. So global trade and insurance commitment to open exchange goods. Finally, we are stepping our work for little berries. This crisis has made one thing clear. In times of uncertainty, the single market is our anchor of stability and resilience. My team and I will continue to work day and night to protect European consumers, workers, and businesses. Together, Europeans will emerge stronger from this crisis. Benny, thoughts?
So if she says 0 for 0 tariffs, why do they have a 30% tariff on American vehicles? Why is it that you can go to Europe, which I'm sure everybody has done here? Did you ever see a Ford truck in Europe?
0.
Have you seen a single American car in Europe?
Nope.
Have you ever seen a dealership in Europe for Chevy?
No.
GMC? No, that doesn't exist. So she's lying. Also, she puts out the tweet at 2 a.m., which is absurd, and nobody's going to see that. Like, learn the time zones. If you're speaking to Trump, which is what this is all about, and saying, yes, we agree that you're in control and you're in control of the entire global economy, and we're going to try and do everything that we possibly can to keep access to the American market, because the only innovation that Europe has brought has been, in the last 30 years, has been a little piece of plastic that keeps the tab on your water bottles. Have you guys seen that? That's the single European innovation. While every AI company is here and every single innovative company on planet Earth, while we're able to catch spaceships with chopsticks, Europe has added a piece of plastic that stabs you in the eye every time you try and drink out of their stupid water
But they
bottles.
patented whining.
By the way,
that's what this sounds like, a patent of a wine. This is why people like Trump. People like Trump because he's dad, all right? Our home, I look at it as a metaphor of a house. Our proverbial house where we live, our country, has not only been a house that has been abused by all of our neighbors, they literally walk onto our property and steal from us. They take our doorknobs, they take our light bulbs, they actually take things from our home. Our children live here. We have a horrible deal with the bank. We're horribly in debt on our house. We need somebody to renegotiate for us, and more importantly, we need somebody to sit in a rocking chair with a shotgun outside to say, you're not going to be stealing from our home anymore. Daddy's home. And that's what Donald Trump is, and that's what these tariffs are. He's sitting there with a polished 12-gauge out front with a cigarette or a Zin in or whatever, an Alpen, and he's saying, you're not going to steal from us any longer. And if you do, there's going to be horrible consequences. He's resetting the neighborhood. And that's what's happening here. Europe has taken total advantage of us. There's a great chart. I don't have it on hand, but there's a great chart about the value of companies that were created in Europe over the last 70 years versus the value of American companies that were startups, and there is zero innovation. Europe has to depend on the American economy. They are dependent on us for their military, for their economics, for their innovation, and quite frankly, for the social welfare programs that they love to invest in. And Donald Trump is simply saying, there it is, perfect.
That's the
That's
chart?
awesome. Look at that. Look at how humiliating. So that's leverage. PBD. PBD. Is that in business? Who has the leverage here?
Yeah, so that's public from scratch U.S. and EU companies, less than 50-year-old with $10 billion market cap. We do, right? Obviously, it's not even close there. So what I did when you said this, because you got me thinking, I lived in Germany for 2 years, and I wanted to know, was there any U.S. cars? Rob, can you actually search how many dealerships are there? Like, just type in ChatGPT, how many Ford dealerships are there in Europe? I'm actually really curious because you got me thinking now. I've never even looked at this data before. How many Ford dealerships are there in Europe? Let's see this number here, Benny. Oh, okay. So they got 3,100 dealerships in Europe.
Across
400. Okay, so then here's what I would want to know. Because to me, as much as EU is something we're looking at, I want to know my number one person in this whole thing taking place is not EU. Because EU allows social media communication. EU allows our stuff to be there. China's my number one. Can you type in, Rob, how many Ford vehicles were sold in Europe? How many Ford vehicles were sold in Europe? Okay, so let's see if EU is the enemy or not, because I think China's on that list. Let's see this one here. So Ford sold roughly 426,000 units, reflecting 17% decline in 2023. The decrease reduced for market share at 3.3. Decline is due to discontinuation of popular models like the Fiesta and Focus. Okay, so now let's go look at how many BMWs Europe sells in the U.S. How many BMWs Europe sells in the U.S.? Okay.
Good one.
So if we see this now, because it validates how great of a customer we are, so go to, there you go, 371,000 they sell in the U.S., making a 2.5% increase.
And Mercedes.
Those are the models. Let's type in Mercedes as well.
Volkswagen.
Okay, type in the same exact question, Mercedes. Yeah, let's see, Mercedes. And then let's look at this here. Let's look at this in 2023. Okay, so about the same exact number, 374,000 is what they sold. Okay, what is the total population in EU? Total population in EU. Tom, do you have an idea?
I thought we were so we're 350, and depending on where you draw the line when you get to Poland and Ukraine.
So they got 100 million
449?
more.
Yeah.
So they got 100 million more. So for 100 million more, with what we're selling to them, what they're selling to us, the products that they have, I don't know if, to me, everything that they're doing right now, this is going to sound very weird. Out of all these tariffs that he's putting down, it's really, sometimes, unfortunately, you have a team of 100 sales guys, and you have one guy that's the biggest pain in the butt for the company to advance. But sometimes you shake things up in a company with a policy to wake this one person up, and then for everybody to get aligned on the same page, and then for that person to come in, say, you know what, I agree with what you're saying. I think this one person is who? It's China. Okay, you understand what I'm saying? Mm-hmm. So the whole, China's the one here. They're doing all of this stuff strictly for China. Don't you think, Tom? All of this stuff is purely for one enemy.
Absolutely. If you want to talk about cars, EU got caught with its pants down because it was kissing up and being nice to BYD because that's the Chinese EVs. And guess what they found out? That they were putting a factory in Hungary and they were hyper subsidizing it and getting ready to destroy Renault and Nissan, which are partners, in EU with the pricing of their EVs. So EU suddenly is now investigating BYD for basically hyper subsidizing it, and all of this goodness for China they're doing, it's biting them. It's absolutely biting them. You can look it up. There you got this BYD, Hungary, and then EU investigation. This is significant. And they're like, wait, what? What are you doing? Yeah, it happened right under your nose. You're so correct. This is all about China and what they're doing everywhere. And Europe let them in the door, wasn't tough with them the way we're being now. And now look, see, they get stabbed right in the back.
So then Trump comes out, says 84% tariffs. I'm sorry, China says 84% tariffs on U.S. goods. Then Trump comes back and says 125% tariffs on U.S. goods. And a 90-day break on tariff negotiation for the 75 so countries that were, working and willing and wanting to do stuff. So
made a phone call, said, we'll talk.
That's right. We'll talk. Is this it, Rob?
This is Caroline Levitt announcing that yesterday.
Go for it. Play this clip.
On China, the tariff on China will now go up to 125% because China imprudently decided to retaliate against the United States. And as I said at the podium yesterday, when you punch at the United States of America, President Trump is going to punch back harder. In that same vein, we have had more than 75 countries from around the world reach out to President Trump and his team here at the White House to negotiate better trade deals for the American worker. We have been overwhelmed with the amount of requests from countries around the world. I'll let the Secretary speak to that. We will continue with the tailor-made negotiations that I spoke about yesterday. In the meantime, there will be a 90-day pause on the reciprocal tariffs as these negotiations are ongoing, and the tariff level will be brought down to a universal 10% tariff. The Secretary here has been a huge part of the President's trade team, of course, and will continue to lead these negotiations moving forward to look out for the American worker, which is always President Trump's goal. So I'll kick it over to our great Treasury Secretary, Scott Bessent.
Okay, so that announcement alone, Rob, caused the market to go up 2,900 yesterday. If you look at the stock market right now, it's down 935 is where Dow is right now. If you look at the Dow right now, it's 935. Adam, where are you at with this? With the announcement yesterday that they put a pause, and then today, markets down 1,000, specifically the Dow. What are your thoughts on this?
Am I the only one that is so confused of what's even going on right now? Everyone, like, I'm in group text messages with my friends. One does business in China. He's freaking out. Another one's a financial advisor. Another one's a MAGA extremist. And I'm just watching the chaos ensue. And nobody knows what's going on. I was watching The Office recently. Do you remember you guys watch The Office?
Yeah.
So do you remember like one of the most famous episodes was the fire alarm episode?
Yes, that's good.
Okay. So Dwight Schrute like casually starts a fire. Michael Scott, who's basically Trump of The Office, just, fire! And just, okay, it's happening. Everyone for themselves. Everyone's freaking out. A lady tries to go through the roof, throws her cat through the roof. Fat guy takes a chair, throws it to the vending machine. He's still in on the food. The black guy just literally faints, almost dies. All this chaos, smoke, craziness, everyone. Then all of a sudden, Dwight blows the fire alarm, goes, just kidding, guys. This was all just a test. This was all a test to see how everyone reacts. And that's what I feel is going on right now. Trump threw all this chaos to the marketplace. And then yesterday, after the market's getting pummeled, pulls the alarm. All right, no reciprocal tariffs. Everything's off. All a test, 10% across the board. Market comes back and has its best day in decades, possibly ever. And I'm just looking, I'm like, what kind of chaos candidate is happening? I feel like I'm living in The Office right now. So anyone out there who can basically say, oh, I know exactly what's going on right now. Nobody knows. Nobody knows. Trump, what are the chances that Trump actually planned on basically like, nah, my bad, reverse the tariffs? Do you think that was his plan all along? I'm trying to keep up. I feel like we're all trying to keep up. What I do know is this. Something needed to be done about China. Yeah. Something needed to be done. So to sit back and just take it on the chin, they're stealing our stuff, all our IP, they're not playing by the rules. You're seeing these clips come out. This is like video never lies. Chuck Schumer's giving speeches. We got to deal with China 20 years ago. All of a sudden, he's reversed course on that. So everything's kind of playing out. Chaos is ensuing, as Pat always says, brace for impact. Stack cash in the meantime.
And listen, I'm not in the finance world. Like terrorists. I don't know what. Listen, all I know is it's been less than how many months has Trump been in? 2 months?
Been 3 months.
Almost 3 months?
Yeah.
Let him cook. Let him do what the hell he's going to do. It drives me crazy too. People that act like they know what's going on. People, like one of my friends was like, dude, did you hear about what the hell did you do reciprocal? I go, bro, you have no idea what that word even means. You live with your mother. Shut the hell up. I'm being dead serious. Let him do what he's going to do. Then I've said this analogy before. The country has had a dislocated shoulder. Trump came in, pulled his shoulder back. Everybody relax. It's going to be sore for a little while. It's going to be a little up and down. But Pat, you made a great point. It's China. At the end of the day, I'm not even going to get into the list of all the crap that they've been doing, stealing, COVID, you name it. That's the enemy. He knows who it is. And this time he has the ammunition. He doesn't have Russia collusion or all this crap happening behind him. He's focused. He knows what he's doing. People need to relax and just let his ass cook.
Let me just respond with one thing. For those of us that are out there just rooting against Trump and rooting against the tariffs, you're not being patriotic. You're actually just against American workers and American companies and genuinely America. Like you're not, if you're like, I want this to fail, you're not exactly very patriotic. At the same time, if you're just sort of blindly following Trump, he can do no wrong, don't question anything, you're also kind of not patriotic. You're just drinking the Kool-Aid. So I think it's totally fair to criticize, to critique, but also root for victory here. Because, again, there's chaos ensuing right now. I don't know. I mean, Pat, I would love to hear what you have to say. Is there an actual plan here? Because the plan just kind of keeps shifting. I think the general idea of what he's doing makes sense, but the actual implementation is causing chaos in the marketplace.
I think you're looking at it in a very different way. Let me give you my perspective. So Kramer actually has got an interesting point here. CNBC. 4 lessons he's sharing from Trump's turmoil. Nobody ever made a dime panicking. Bulls make money. Bears make money. Pigs get slaughtered. Mm-hmm. The president likes drama. You won't get certainty. And don't bet against good companies. Let's go to number 3. How many years of watching Trump do we have so far?
Decade. 50?
50 years of watching Trump.
50.
What do we know about his resume?
So this would be my point. To all
Right.
this would be my point to all
Yeah.
this. Like, it's chaos. We didn't know. Oh my God, fire drill. You haven't been paying attention because Dwight's been trying to set the fire for 50 years. Dwight's been sitting there with his cigarette because he lights it with a cigarette. He's been sitting there for 50 years lighting that cigarette, putting it in the trash. Donald Trump, you can go back to the 70s. Donald Trump's sitting there in his earliest interviews. The guy's maybe late 20s. And he's sitting there and he's going, these companies, they're ripping us off. And it's terrible. And we got to do something about it. And we should put up tariffs. And they're abusing us. We played clip after clip after clip. You can find so many of them. One's great one with Roger Ailes. So one of the first Fox News interviews was Donald Trump and Roger Ailes, and they're sitting here in this like golf course, and Trump's just going off in 1995. Damn. And he's just going off on Japan at the time because China wasn't in the World Trade Organization. But it was Japan at the time, and he's like, they're ripping us off, and he's talking about Japanese vehicles. And saying, why are we so weak? Why are we such pussies? And why can't we tariff Japanese vehicles back? And all you have to do is then reapply that to China entering the World Trade Organization that has rules. There's rules. We let them into the WTO. They've never followed the rules. They've only ever stolen IPs. If you have buddies that do business in China, every one of them will tell you that the number one thing that will happen if you bring an innovation to China and manufacture it there is 100 different versions of your product will pop up on Temu and Amazon the next day. They'll steal it. They'll rip you off, and you have no grounds in Chinese courts to file for patents. You're screwed. You're completely effed as an American innovator. They are thieves. They're a technocracy that the World Economic Forum has created as the new superstate to take down Western civilization. They are an absolute abomination, and they're a total and complete dictatorship, closed society. So what's the actual end goal here? I think the destruction of globalism. China is the model superstate for what they wanted to bring to the rest of the world. China was the laboratory. They cooked in that laboratory to bring a technocracy, dictatorship, single-party rule where all of us are slaves. Every one of us is slaves. Western civilization is gone, religion is gone, free market's gone, and we have this new overlords. It's exporting slavery to the rest of the world, and China was the first laboratory. They needed it to work so they could bring that model out. And you've seen that model actually start popping up little places. And Trump is slamming that model's head against the locker, putting it down. And that's, I think, what is actually happening here. The destruction of the horrific future they had planned for all of us, the COVID-level lockdowns, all of us living in these little pods and boxes and eating the bugs. That's what they had planned. China's it, and they want to destroy that right now. Final thing I'll say to your allegory of The Office. Let's say you had a business and you were able to actually see who was betting against the business. You have a bunch of employees. There are 187 countries in the world. You have 187 employees. And you're able to actually open up the trades and see who's shorting your company, your publicly traded company. You're able to open up the trades, and they're not anonymous, and see who's betting on the company. What employees are taking like the $5-10 they have a month and like betting that your company will succeed and like putting that in, driving that into the stock and driving that equity into your security. And which employees are saying, I'm going to screw this company over. I'm going to make a fortune with this when this company goes down. And they're working inside your company. That's the World Trade Organization. China's that employee. They're betting against us who run the global economy. And Trump turned the lights on. Trump was able to reveal who was shorting the American market. And it was China. And he caught them dead to rights with their dick in their hands.
I love what you just said. The day before yesterday on podcast, I talked about the young Nancy Pelosi and her big chart on China, and she went down like 7 points. You know what I'm talking about? Yes. Yeah, and she's in like, I think, a green dress. She looks quite young. And they're saying, what's up? You're a hypocrite. She's not a hypocrite. At that moment, she was not bought into the globalist agenda. And when she bought into the globalist agenda, she bought into China. Yeah. And when she bought into China, she bought into defending China in the name of the globalist agenda. And that's when she became not a Democrat of history, supporting unions, public school teachers and all of that, where she started. That's when she changed. And she became actually not pro-America, pro-globalist, and supporting the militarized weaponry. And I love the way that you just described this as the working lab and the test. It was their atomic bomb that was being built over there to detonate and destroy Western civilization. And now you see what happened to Nancy Pelosi. She's a hypocrite. She's not a hypocrite. She changed her mind and selected a globalist future. It's the same thing that, people who come to grips with their alcoholism say, I've now, rekindled the Judaism, Christianity, Catholicism of my youth and my family, and this faith is going to help get me through my alcoholism. She had a religious conversion to globalism. That's what happened. I don't think it's hypocrisy. I think it's exactly what you're talking about.
By the way, Rob, if you have, so that was an incredible point that you made, Benny. To me, it's very simple. First, you have to look at a few things. The knowns. There's a knowns and the unknowns. Anytime you're trying to make a big decision, you have to know whatever problem you're trying to solve. He explains something about knowing who's shorting your company. One day, I'm looking at every week, I'm giving 200 appointments away to my insurance agents. I'll never forget this, Tom. You'll love this story. Every week on Tuesday night and Monday night, I'm giving appointments away. And my guys are going and writing the business, and I'm trying to find out why some are writing, why some are not writing. I asked one of my guys, can you run a ratio of how many appointments I've given to these people and who's closed? He gives me the ratio. One of my guys I had given 40 appointments to, this many closes. So then I'm like, how is this person not closing? This person's a very good communicator. This person's solid at what they do, but how are they not selling anybody? That doesn't make any sense to me. So I said, here's what I want you to do. I want you to run down and see which one of our guys has an insurance policy and who's actively paying into it that they believe in the product. Mm-hmm. Do you understand what just happened right there? So he brings me back the report. The one that was selling with the highest closing ratio has had a policy, multiple of them, pays into it, believes in the product, has it for himself, has it for his family. Great. The person that 40 appointments being given hasn't closed a single one, hasn't paid money into their policy for a year and a half. She hadn't done that. And then I sit in the meeting, and this is how the meeting starts. It's in my office in Northridge, and I say, okay, guys, how much you guys believe in what we do? Oh, my God. Oh, really? Awesome. Tell me why. And I'm going through. So first I go to the guy that I know pays actively. I said, tell me why you believe in it. Well, are you kidding me? My mother this, my dad this, and da-da-da-da. I said, great. How about you? And I go specifically to the person that doesn't have it. I said, so why do you believe in it? Are you, oh my God. I said, if you believe in it, I want to tell you guys what I have here, okay? I said, I have everyone's numbers here on who's paid into the premium and who has not, and for how many months. Would you like me to share with you the names? Within a second, first person that says, no, I don't think it's appropriate. I said, I agree. So I won't. So I went like this. I put it here. I said, but now I know why some of you don't sell any insurance and some of you do. If you don't believe in the product, go sell something you believe in. And if you want to sell this product, spend the next 2-4 weeks doing whatever you can to believe in a product. If you need to sit down with me to help you persuade you into how the product works, if I can't do it, go sell something else. But you got to figure something out. That person came to me, straight up conversation with her. She today makes $800,000 a year because she finally bought in. Some of the guys that didn't left. It was good to go. The point you just made was beautiful. Here's the knowns. China is betting against the U.S. The knowns are they are bullying our business owners. They're bullying our talent. They're bullying our engineers. And they're bullying their own people. Their own people want to leave. They have a negative net migration right now. So the knowns are China is not a friend of the U.S., okay? China would do anything they can to have control. They've said it, made in USA 2025. It's here right now. We've been talking about this for 6 years. Made in 2025 is officially here. It's 2025. And they're not where they want it to be. What are the knowns that we have? How Trump negotiates. It is the way he is. He likes to steer the pot. He likes to go challenge. He likes to push the envelope. He likes pushing buttons. He likes doing that. He's been doing that for his entire life. The knowns are the knowns. We see how a couple of our neighbors, Mexico and Canada, how they handle certain things, how they all of a sudden are like, whoa, we got to figure something out. There are so many knowns that we have. What are the unknowns? Some of the unknowns was the market. What's going to happen with bonds? Money goes from stock market to bonds. What happens with interest rates? What happens with, hey, what if we lower the interest rate? Right now, the gap between the 30-year fixed and the federal rate right now, Tom, I think the gap between the two is around 2.5%. You know, you kind of want it to be around 1.5% to 2%. Right now, the banks don't even trust what's going to happen with rates. So they're like, we're not going to give that much of a discount. So even if they lower the rates, they're not lowering their own mortgage rates. That's their way of saying, look, man, we have no clue what the hell is going on. We're not going to give you we're not passing that discount over to you because it could change in the next 6 to 12 months. So that's the unknown. But the known we do. By the way, Kevin O'Leary said the following, Rob, if you can play this clip, and I want to get your thoughts on this, Benny, and then Adam, I'm coming to you right afterwards. Go for it.
104% tariffs on China are not enough. I'm advocating 400%. I do business in China. They don't play by the rules. They've been in the WTO for decades. They have never abided by any of the rules they agreed to when they came in for decades. They cheat, they steal IP. I can't litigate in their courts. They take product, technology, they steal it, they manufacture it and sell it back here. Never has an administration.
400% tariffs? What would that
I
look
want
like?
Xi on an airplane to Washington to level the playing field. This is not about tariffs anymore.
Yes.
Nobody has taken on China yet, not the Europeans, no administration for decades. As someone who actually does business there, I've had enough. I speak for millions of Americans who have IP
Look at the shocked
that
face.
have been stolen by
see
the
her face?
Chinese. I have
None of them own any
nothing
business.
That's right.
against the
None of them
Chinese
have ever
people.
started
They
anything.
brought great
None of those people on the panel ever
literacy,
employed anyone except
art,
Kevin.
and tech to the world. The government cheats and steals, and finally, an administration, you may not like Trump, you may not like his style or his rhetoric, finally, an administration that puts up and says enough. 400% tariffs tomorrow morning. He'll tell you why. Xi can only stay the supreme leader if people are employed. If we wipe out any business there, because we are still 39% of all consumables on Earth and 25% of the world's GDP, America is the #1 economy on Earth with all the cards. We will not have that forever. It's time to squeeze Chinese heads into the wall now.
Good.
Well,
I'm
hold
not
on a
talking about
second.
tariffs
Well,
on
I hear you, but hold on. If we're talking about people, the average consumer, not necessarily the head honchos of businesses all across the globe, can they withstand?
Can they withstand?
Benny,
She
so
cares.
dumb.
Your thoughts?
I love the squeeze the head into the wall. I love it. And she's going to go, well, what about the average consumer? A couple of things here. One, the allegory that is being used across social media is that everybody is waiting for our guy, for our bully, for dad to come home. China's a bully. China's been a complete asshole to everybody in the world. There's a very famous clip. Please help me here. Donald Trump, don't trust China. China is asshole. There's a very famous clip. It's one of the most famous clips out there. It's great, and it's a prophet. This man was a prophet. He's a Taiwanese dude standing in the street saying China is asshole.
That's him.
Donald Trump.
I just saw this morning too.
China. We need independence.
Yep. And what's your message to? Have you seen Donald Trump? Do you think he should step in?
Donald Trump, don't trust China. China is asshole.
Can we do it together? Can we just get one? Can we get the wide shot here? Can we just do it together? 3, 2, 1. China is asshole. There's the viral.
Oh my God.
What sign is he
Trump
holding?
listened to this guy and said, and what do you want, right? What do you want in every 80s movie? What do you want in Back to the Future? What you want, the apex of Back to the Future, the climax of Back to the Future is when George McFly finally takes that shaky fist and punches Biff in the effing face and bloodies his nose, and Biff is crying.
And he wins the girl.
That's right. The chicks fall in his lap. He gets in the DeLorean and rips it. It's awesome. It's like the American economy now. The American economy, everyone's waiting for George McFly, Trump, to just punch China in the face, right? And to get red China, red in the face, blood dripping, and say, like, you know what? You've been such a jackass to everybody on Earth, and nobody likes you, and nobody wants to be you. We know what's cooking here inside of this dirty little laboratory for the World Economic Forum. We don't want your techno-slavery, and we are going to knock you down. And that's what President Trump's doing, and that's going to be wildly popular.
Adam.
Love Back to the Future. Are you freaking kidding me? Make like a tree and leaf, George
That's
McFly.
right.
Get out of here, dude.
That's
Anytime you can
exactly
get a Back to the Future reference, forget about it. And the best scene was the electricity on the roof. The whole thing gets Back to the Future.
Yeah.
Well, speaking of Back to the Future, if we could go back to the 80s, remember one thing. Who made China? You had a great conversation with Richard Werner yesterday, The Economist. And who would China be without us? You know, when Trump gave that speech with the tariffs, look at this beautiful map, look at this graph. He laid out all the countries and the reciprocal tariffs. And you notice that he said, sometimes our allies, they rip us off more than our enemies. But you know what? I would do the same thing. But you know who I blame? Who did he blame? And he started pointing at the Oval Office. He goes, our former presidents and our leaders, they're to blame.
Yes.
And the buck stops here. So the conversation you have with Werner is like, how did China even get all this power? Didn't USA give them the blessing to enter the World Trade Organization? Whether it's NAFTA, whether it's TFT, our leaders, our government officials have sold America basically downriver. And now we're paying the price. And Trump, like you said, is being the George McFly to Biff and saying, we're going to punch you back. Yeah. So they lie, they cheat, they steal, and someone needs to do it. So the only analogy that I'll give is like how ungrateful if you basically allow someone to become, or a country to get to this position, for them to basically be like rooting against us, it makes no sense. It's kind of like, it's a weird example, but you see what Kanye is doing to Jay-Z these days? Kanye was nobody before Jay-Z signed him to Rockefeller. He gave him this amazing position. He signed him, puts him in this thing, and now Kanye is just, literally, they put a thing called Watch the Throne. Now Kanye is trying to be the person, or did try to be the person to wear the throne, but heavy is the head that wears the crown. One more reference is Dr. Dre, when he would go, I started this gangster, this is a mother, thanks I get. America started China, and this is the thanks we get, and this is where I'm at.
But just a few minutes ago, you were a little bit confused, where you said you didn't know what was going on.
Well, nobody knows what's going on. So if you want to take a macro position and say, all right, with Trump, expect the unexpected. I agree.
Yeah, that's it.
But you also don't know what to expect.
No, for sure. Yeah.
So that's what
I understand what you're saying. Yeah, I got what you're trying to say. Because to me, a part of what's going on right now is, like yesterday I had Richard Werner on here, okay? And I don't know if you know who Richard Werner is. He is the father of quantitative easing. He's the guy that came up with quantitative easing. This is the guy. So this is the second podcast we did with him. It's a kind of a podcast that guys like me love, but it's like all numbers and it's all like economy and stuff like that, right? He said something very interesting. He said back in the days, Rob, if you can pull up the leader that they had, Deng Xiaoping is his name. I hope I said it right. This is the guy.
Actually, you'd think you did a great job, PBD.
So in 1978, China is in the shits. Nothing is going on, okay? They have a lot of trouble. He goes and meets with Japan, their enemy. He meets with Japan, the enemy. He goes and meets with Japan's leader, the enemy, and they have some, what drinks? He said, not sake. What did he say? They had some drinks together. Yeah. And while they did, during the dinner, he said sake? Yeah. Okay. During the dinner, you know what ends up happening? He asks him, he says, look, I need your help. How were you guys able to grow your economy 15% back to back to back, where your size of your GDP doubled 4 times over a span of a couple decades? How did you guys do this? And finally, Japan, after it was done, they shared with them. They said, how many banks do you have? He says, we have one central bank. He says, no, how many banks do you have? He said, I just told you, we have one bank. He says, it'll never happen. He said, what do you mean? He said, you need 5,000 banks and 5 million loan officers taking 35 applications of business owners on a weekly basis. He says, how many? He says, you need 5,000 banks, 5 million loan officers taking 35 applications a week of small business owners coming in. He says, you're kidding me. He says, no, if you don't do that, it's not going to happen. He goes back. That's exactly what they do. China then starts having different banks. They start competing with banks. They start having the loan officers. Small business starts taking off. China's economy goes up. This guy said, let's set aside our communistic history and all this other stuff. Keep in mind, in 1971 is the first time that a U.S. president went to China for the first time ever, and it was Nixon. Hadn't happened for 25 years. So he comes and he goes to Japan, has that conversation. He leaves, China takes off. The next thing I did yesterday is I wanted to find out what Xi thinks about him. Because what Richard said is the U.S. has to have a conversation with China to have it be a conversation like this. Let's find a way to make this work. Well, if you look up, Rob, go to ChatGPT and type in what Xi Jinping thinks about Deng Xiaoping. And when you type this in, because a part of it has to be like, who's your hero? Do you look up to that guy? Is that somebody you admire? If you do, then the president and his team can think about how to approach China. This is what you'll see. Xi frequently credits him in a speech calling him the greatest Marxist. He acknowledged him, but also at the same time, he has positioned himself away from him. Rob, if you can go a little bit higher, the camera's covering it. He said good things, but Xi views himself, distances himself from Deng in the last few years because he wants to go back to more the control of what's going on, the way it was with China, the Communistic Party, right there. It doesn't matter what a cat is, black or white, as long as it catches mice. Pragmatism over ideology. That's Deng. Here's Xi. Reinforce the role of Communist Party in every part of society and business. He cracked down on private enterprise, reintroducing ideological control. So Xi is not Deng. But you know what he said that was even scarier than that? Rob, can you pull up the following? Pull up the numbers that he showed yesterday. The number of banks in America. Watch this here, Vinny.
How many banks we have here?
Okay, before you even pull it up, Rob, go to the chart. Before you pull it up, let me just kind of tell these guys, don't pull it up yet. How many banks do you think we have in America today?
I mean,
how many banks do you think we have in America?
Branches or types of banks?
Total banks. How many total banks do we have in America?
Like building itself.
How many banks do we have in America today?
10,000.
It's 4,000 today.
Wow.
Okay, you ready? What do you think is the peak? 4,588 banks today. What do you think is the peak of the most banks we had in America?
10,000.
Go back to it, Rob. Can you pull up the most banks we had in America and what the year was? We had 14,000 banks.
Jeez.
No, that's not the year. It's previous to that, if you remember, right there. The peak we hit, look at the 70s, 80s, 14,000 banks. And it dropped to 4,000 banks today, 4,500 banks today.
Yeah.
Do you know 56% of all the business that's done is done with the main banks, JP Morgan, Chase, Wells Fargo, B of A, it's the main ones that you see.
Too big to fail.
The problem is we're kind of working backwards.
Yep.
We're not having these small banks that are giving $50,000, $25,000 loans, $100,000 loans. So if Trump is really looking at this whole thing in what's going on, this may be part one. Part two may be, hey, stop making it so difficult to start a damn bank. Chamath was on Schultz's podcast talking about the fact that they were starting a business to sell batteries in America. And he says how it took them, it's actually a very good clip. So it's a long clip, 7 minutes, so we don't need to play it. But I'll tell you what he said. This young kid comes to Chamath and says, hey, we need to build a battery company in America. Let me show you the idea. He shows it to him. And Chamath says, well, let's do it. So they go through the process. It takes them almost a year and a half to get this done. He'll give it a timeline. And they end up getting $100 million from the government to do this. He says, we need billions. Then he says, Letitia James goes under Biden and asks for some money. Within 30 days, gets approved for $2 billion. He says, we're going to do something good for America. Took us a year and all this stuff, bureaucratic processes that we have to go through to get to $100 million. She got $2 billion within 30, 60 days. Oh. So this is the part that regulation, we need to continue deregulating to allow the small business owner to be getting that $25,000, $50,000 to see what they can build with. That's another problem that we're going to be facing. So yes, China, yes, all this other stuff. Mm-hmm. We have to kind of look at some of the stuff that maybe in the future, this number needs to go back up to around 10,000.
Is it deregulation or is it just monopolies? Because I'm so glad that we pointed this thing out because we've lost, 70% of banks since the 70s? But you start to hear all the mom and pop stories that are closing. So whether it's retail and it's Walmart and Amazon, whether it's, pharmaceuticals and it's just Walgreens, CVS, Duane Reade, whether it's, electronics, it's just Best Buy and who else? I don't even know. Radio Shack closed. There's less choices and it's just more monopolies and all these big companies are just taking over. The mom and pop companies no longer exist. Is that sort of what the analogy is with the banks?
Yeah, because the way he was describing it, banks want to be able to give $1 billion loan. $200 million loan to a big company. They don't want to give a $50,000 loan. It's the same amount of time. I would much rather give $1 billion loan and go sell it off to the third party than have to come and deal with somebody that's a small business owner for $25,000. How many of those $25,000 do I need to do to be equate? Like $100,000 loan for $1 billion. How long does $100,000 take to get $1 billion? That's a lot of them. So, but the small bank, that's a local bank that somebody is putting up $30 million. they will give that $25,000. They will do that $50,000. The bigger banks are like, we're not interested in that. Stop it. Go to somebody else with our minimum is $5 million. Our minimum is $20 million.
The challenge is if you remember 2008, everything that happened during the Great Recession, these banks were all bailed out because they were too big to fail. That was the whole thing with Glass-Steagall and exactly. Was it Barney Frank?
Well, this chart moves because of the S&L crisis that was in America that started in the 80s.
The savings and loan crisis?
Yeah, there was 1,000 banks.
16%.
Yep, 1,000 banks failed in less than 3 years when it started because they took more riskier positions on lending, out of greed to get more business, and then the interest rates move and things change, and there it is, S&L crisis. Yep.
But shouldn't these banks fail? Isn't that sort of the point?
They should.
But if
they let them fail.
Yeah, but just like after the mortgage, crisis of 2008 and Nina loans and things, which were dumb, had there been simple regulation on liquidity, right, that would have led to people not doing Nina loans, then S&L crisis wouldn't have happened, and we would still have all the small S&Ls and the thrifts that were out there. But they blame the economy, but it was also the way they were operating, and they wanted more business, and just like 2008.
Yeah.
It's like history keeps repeating itself.
What's funny is you brought up Chamath. I think the first thing that I remember made Chamath famous was during 2020 when he talked about the airlines that were doing basically, buybacks, stock buybacks. And he was being interviewed, and he goes, what do you think should happen to the banks? He goes, let them fail. Let them fail. Why do we keep bailing these people out? Do you remember that? And people were like, what do you mean let them fail? But, zombie companies that don't basically manage their P&L, they should fail. That's why I'm so against the WNBA. Anyway, that's another story.
Let me go to the next one here. Jamie Dimon says, recession is likely outcome with Trump's tariff turmoil. Rob, if you have that clip, Jamie Dimon comes out and is officially using the R word. Recession being there. Do you have it, Rob?
I do.
Let me read this to you if you don't. Okay, there you go. Go for it.
And then how it affects consumer sentiment.
Sorry.
You personally expect a recession?
I am going to defer to my economists at this point, but I think probably that's a likely outcome.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Because markets, when you see a 2,000 point decline, it sort of feeds on itself, doesn't it? Because it makes you feel like you're losing money in your 401k, you're losing money in your pension. You got to cut back.
Yeah. I always remind people markets aren't always right, but sometimes they are right. And I think this time they are right because they're just pricing in uncertainty at the macro level and uncertainty at the micro level, at the actual company level. And then how it affects consumer sentiment, it's hard to tell. Consumers still have jobs. Wages are going up at the low end, which I think is a good thing. But if companies start cutting back, the consumer sentiment changes and business sentiment changes. I think you've already seen business sentiment change a little bit. Hopefully, no one's wishing for that, but hopefully if there is one, it'll be short. But but I do think fixing these tariff issues and trade issues would be a good thing to do.
Benny, recession.
So let's get the terms right. So 2 consecutive quarters of negative GDP growth. Yeah, recession. All right.
Under Trump, that's the definition. Under Biden, it's not.
Yeah, that's because that happened under Biden. Yeah, that happened. There's a lot of this stuff that happened under Biden. Obviously, you have these self-made billionaires that are in charge of the country, and I would say, and I just want to give a shout out. I don't know him. I've never met him, but the person who has become a rock star in all of this is Scott Bessent. Man, that guy is impressive. And everybody is now hanging on his every word. I've never seen a Treasury Secretary command so much power and also have such clarity. He spoke to the banks, and we talked about banks, and then I want to get back to the recession point. He spoke to the banks just yesterday, and Scott Bessent is sitting there giving a talk to all of the large American banks. And it's just a point that you made about large banks and conglomeration with financial services. And he said, your days are over. You had a great run. Now it's time for Main Street. Like, we're done with Wall Street. Now it's time for Main Street. The ball's on this guy to stare down the banks right here, this clip, to stare down the banks and say, this administration is not about you. We ran for the working man, and now it's time to serve them. I don't know how long this clip is, but
27 seconds.
Let's have a listen.
For too long, financial policy has served large financial institutions at the expense of smaller ones. No more. No more.
That takes a lot of guts to say that.
This administration aims to give all banks the chance to succeed, whether it's J.P. Morgan or your local mortgage and loan. It aims to get capital to Americans who need it by getting bureaucracy out of the way. For too long,
PBD is exactly what you just talked about, and people.
This was yesterday. When was that, Rob?
This was yesterday.
Yep, yesterday.
To the National Bankers Association, funded by the big banks, created wholesale by corporate banks, and so to be able to have the temerity to go in and say that, and then also his background is so impressive, and I cannot believe I'm doing this. Please don't come for me in the chat. Please, chat, don't come for me over this. But I'm telling you, like when you go into his background and see that he worked with George Soros. Scott Bessent worked with George Soros as his chief risk manager when he collapsed the British pound. When George Soros did a strategic collapse of the British government, doing it through, hear me out on this, a overinflated stock market in the UK, overvalued currency in the UK, mass immigration that was disproportionate and making the culture wobbly, and an elite class that had sold out the working class of their country. That's what the UK was in the 90s. And and Scott Bessent, our current Treasury Secretary, with George Soros, swooped in and made a fortune that couldn't be spent in 100,000 lifetimes by shorting the UK government in the pound. And this man saw the structural inefficiencies and the risks associated with the single greatest financial coup in world history, arguably. What made George Soros famous. I'm only saying that to say this. Trump is a genius, man, for bringing this guy on, for ignoring the fact that he's friends with Soros, bringing this guy on to work out these structural inefficiencies in our country so that this can't happen to us. And that's what I believe is actually happening here. Will it lead to a recession? I don't know. I'll leave that for people with much higher IQs. I went to community college. But is Scott Bessent on a warpath to create a wall around our home? And I'd like using the home analogy, the metaphor. I'm sorry, it's going to get old. But Scott Bessent is out there to reinforce against someone like Soros doing that to the American dollar and the American economy. I am 100% in favor of that. Yes, there will be pain. Yes, you'll have to exercise some demons. These are the kind of things that happen when you have when you have demonic possession, which is what the country has right now. When you have things that are really bad and wrong with the country, you're going to have to exercise them out. But that's what Scott Bessent is doing. And if you understand the full picture of what's happening there as he's trying to reinforce, to protect against what he did to the UK, he's doing that for us. That's amazing.
Very interesting. I didn't know that, by the way. Tom, your thoughts? Recession.
So recession, you heard what he was talking about. Jimmy Dimon was talking about sentiment. So he says the sentiment of the consumer, sentiment. He said it 3 times. Why? Because if the consumer gets worried and you're worried about tomorrow, then you don't buy incremental things that you might think are luxuries. You save. If you're worried about what's going to happen tomorrow, maybe you know, honey, we were going to take a trip and we were going to go to Orlando and we were going to go to all the theme parks and everything. What if we go to the Grand Canyon and go to the national parks and do some things like that this summer with the kids? Do something fun, but let's not spend $3,000. Let's spend $1,200 and let's save the rest of it. This is not fiction. These are the decisions that a populace that looks at all this, because most Americans are not in the stock market and they think the stock market's the economy because that's what comes screaming out of the news at them. The stock market is not the economy. The economy is Costco yesterday said it had a really good first quarter. That's the economy. The American consumer shopping at Costco. And so, and by the way, the market for, an hour and a half is going to love the Costco earnings report. It's going to go up. And so, that's what it is. So what is a recession? 2 quarters of negative GDP growth. That doesn't mean we're in the shitter. That means that the growth stops. Why does the growth stop? The sentiment stops. And then if corporate sentiment, which was mentioned by Jamie Dimon, and consumer sentiment are more conservative, hey, let's let all this tariff stuff sort out, then they buy less. That's what a recession is. It's not a depression and a collapse of all the mechanisms. It's merely 2 quarters or 6.5 quarters, if it's the Biden math, of negative GDP growth. And so I think Jamie Dimon could be correct, but I believe he's correct about one thing at the end. If there is one, it will be brief, because I think he's also looking, and he said, I'm going to leave it to my quants, that the negotiation of all of these tariff things, Pat, where do you think it's going to be in 4 months, 6 months? It's going to be the food poisoning. We're going to be out of the bathroom over our food poisoning and back at work.
Yeah, I mean, out of the bathroom, Tom.
No, I'm saying it's
pretty
like,
bad case of food poisoning. I don't know what you ate.
I'm saying it's a bad visual, but I'm saying
go to those restaurants. It's
the tariffs. Think of the tariffs as having a really bad cold, and you're off work for a couple days because it's a bad cold. And now, guess what? And you're going to be back. That's what the tariffs are. It's a medicine we have to take.
Can somebody explain to me why Joe Biden wasn't hit with the R word?
Retard?
He was in this room, but that's the right question, Benny.
Which R word, Benny?
Oh, do you
I
mean-
just threw it. I threw it out
you're
there.
talking recession?
So PBD
Retard?
just goes like the Biden recession, but that did not sink in.
They changed the definition of that.
Okay.
And by the way,
so what happened there?
Yeah. Oh, they changed the definition while we were literally live on the air.
Well, I look at it a little bit. I look at it a little bit different because this is kind of the conversation I was having with Brandon the other day, where he's like, "You have to understand the macroeconomics and what happens with the quantitative easing, and then what happens is." I was like, "Well, have you started investing yet?" He's like, "No." I'm like, "Why are you so worried about the world's economy? You should be worried about your own economy." Like, and then he's like, "Well, I'm just waiting on the time to buy the dip." I go, "You probably want to buy today." And I go, "Because I've seen this markets go up and down all my life since I've been in this investing world." The next day, all-time biggest increase in the stock market we've ever seen in our lifetime. It's like, "Did you buy it?" He goes, "No, I was waiting." I was like, "You missed your chance." What's my point? I don't know if a recession's happening. You're saying that it might be 4 months, it might be 6 months, consecutive quarters of negative GDP. We don't know. What we do know is what you can is control the controllable. So is Jamie Dimon right? Hold on, Vinny. I know you're a financial advisor. Let me just.
I know I'm ready to drop the ball.
But
Rob,
the only
clip.
economy that you should be focusing on is your economy right now. Make sure that you're doing what you need to do to keep your job. Be inflation proof, be recession proof, be good at what you do. We talk about the fear and greed index. Rob, I sent you that, by the way. Do you know the fear greed index that we mentioned this time? Do you know where it's at right now? Take a guess before you put it out
Happy.
there. Where, you think people are happy?
I'm
greedy.
Okay, people are greedy?
Well, they should be.
Go ahead, show it right now. People are in extreme fear
And whose
mode.
fault is that?
And by the way, that's at an 8 right now. Do you know the all-time low it's ever been? 2. That was during COVID on March 12th, 2020. Do you know that 2 days ago what the number was? It was at a 3. So people in America, very, very fearful right now. So what happens if you're fearful? By the way, if you want to know what the highest greed ever was? I think it was in 2012 when the fear greed index hit about 90 is when it was. So what can you do to prepare for a potential recession? Get out of debt, save that money, and invest the right way. So, Tom, you brought up a great point. Instead of maybe going to Mykonos this summer, going to Ibiza, maybe you go to the Grand Canyon to go to Lake Michigan or something like that. Instead of basically balling out.
Just go to Key West.
There you go. Instead of balling out when you get your tax refund, maybe you pump that into a Roth IRA. I don't know. Maybe you don't get a new car right now. You just fix the old one. Brace for impact, again, because we might have a recession, but forget about what's going on in the macroeconomy, what's going on in your economy.
Yeah. And you saw the consumer price over month to month actually drop, Rob. Can you put, Rob, there's a video, and Tom has a chart that inflation cools, that actually went down 0.1%. That's 9/11.
And Costco had a good quarter. Isn't that interesting? Some data and some facts.
No, Rob, I sent you a video on Slack.
What a metaphor.
It's the March consumer price index went to 2.4.
I don't have
you didn't,
And while we're waiting for that to come up,
That might have been the text, Rob.
The
The
VIX
text.
today, the measure of
Sorry.
volatility, did not jump back up as people thought. It went up a little bit today, but it didn't jump back up. It's staying at 37, which is to Adam's point about the fear and greed index. That's a sentiment. So the sentiment is actually calming on the market today, and people say that what's going on today is some profit taking because it's not America buying it. It's 10%.
Have you looked
of
at what the
people.
market is today? I have not looked.
They
Take
said
a guess.
It
Where
was
do you think it is today?
800. We saw it. Minus
it's
800.
okay.
S&P 135 down.
So
Dow
it's just
800 down.
it's like a
NASDAQ
yo-yo.
500.
It's like a
Well, no, but today they say it's profit taking pressure, and the VIX only moved 4 points.
I concur with what Tom is saying.
Okay, let's go to the next story here. next story here. One of the things I love about the team that we have here, our chief investment officer, Vincent Oshana, crushes it. Like
Thank
the
you.
amount of research his team comes up with is like.
I appreciate that.
What happens is you do so much legwork on the back end that when the podcast starts, he's just tired. He doesn't want to.
I'm exhausted. I was up till 2 o'clock in the morning
others
talking
give
about
it, but
the
researching
index
inflation.
and
There you
the
go.
reciprocal
it's
tariffs.
incredible. All right, let's go to some fun here. Trump and Obama's odds of winning the presidency if they faced off historic third term. Okay. So this is like that heavyweight. This is Ilya Taporia against Islam. This is John Jones against Aspinall. This is a good fight here to see. And here's what Trump had to say about it. Rob, is there the odds here for me to read before I go to it?
I can find it while we play the video.
Yeah, go for it. Go for it.
If you were allowed, for some reason, to run for a third term, is there a thought that the Democrats could try to run Barack Obama against you?
I'd love that.
Or his-
Boy, I'd love that. That would be a good one. I'd like that. No, people are asking me to run, and there's a whole story about running for a third term. I don't know. I never looked into it. They do say there's a way you can do it, but I don't know about that. But I have not looked into it. I want to do a fantastic job. We have 4 years, just about, almost close to 4 years. Time is flying, but it's still close to 4 years, and we're getting a lot of credit for having done a great job in the first almost 100 days.
And by the way, here's what the odds say. Let me read it to you. Trump's claim run against Barack Obama third term faces a tough reality as an Overton Insight survey of 1,100 registered voters shows Obama leading 53 to 47%.
Please.
Okay.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right.
No.
So the poll reveals Obama dominating among independents with 59% and moderates with 61%, taking 10% of Trump's 2024 voters, while Trump only swipes 3% of Kamala Harris's voters. No constitutional law currently allows Trump or Obama to run in 2028, but Representative Andy Ogles proposed amending the 22nd Amendment just 3 days ago into Trump's second term to permit Trump's a third term, excluding Obama for his consecutive prior terms. The amendment states no person shall be elected to the office of the president more than 3 times, nor be elected to additional terms after being elected to 2 consecutive terms. So there's 2 questions. One, who would win? Would you want to see it? And at the same time, would you like to see Trump being overturned for a third term? I'll go to you first.
Trump's already beat Obama 3 times. So he already won in 2016. That was an Obama cutout. Remember, Joe Biden was like begging to run. Obama gave Hillary Clinton the crown, and Trump romped. Then in 2020, Obama did everything they possibly could to rig and to steal that from President Trump. And then in 2024, Obama went hard in the paint. All of this happening behind the scenes, cloak and dagger stuff, that was all Obama. The George Clooney op-ed, it was all Obama. Obama ran the White House. Does anybody really believe that Joe Biden was in charge of the White House? It was clearly Obama, the first president in our lifetime, that moved down the street. No president has ever moved 5 blocks from the White House to a mansion in Colorado, Washington, D.C., is where Barack Obama moved. So as he says on Stephen Colbert's show, I can run the White House from my sweatpants with the phone, with the earpiece in.
Yeah.
And what's the first thing you see when they're inaugurating Joe Biden at that dystopian, weird inauguration that nobody went to, that the military had to protect? What's the first thing you see is Joe Biden like saying things as though he has an earpiece in. I'm telling you, man, Trump's already beat Obama 3 times. And there's no way that you can convince me otherwise. This last time was a 7 swing state romp with the popular vote. Barack Obama is cooked, and I'll give you one final piece of data to prove that. They have to bus people into Obama rallies. Obama can't draw the crowds anymore. You just got who can sell merch. I think it's Andrew Schultz who said this. Like, politics is who can sell merch, right? You got your merch move, bro, right? That's it. Obama can't sell merch. Here's a perfect example of this.
So true.
We got 40,000 people right now watching on YouTube. What would happen if Michelle Obama went live on YouTube? She got a little channel, same platform. I can show you. You can pull up Michelle Obama's YouTube channel right now, and you will see views.
Dozens of views.
Like Minecraft, like 12-year-old Minecraft. 12-year-old Minecraft kid started a YouTube channel. It is really sad, and it's with billions of dollars of free promotion from the corporate media. The ship has sailed. People are over the Obamas. They're done with them. Michelle Obama's podcast is a perfect example of how people don't care anymore about them. They know that they're frauds.
Why do you think?
Well, because Michelle Obama stands up at the DNC convention, and we were all there, and we all heard it. She stands up at the DNC convention. Here's why. She's standing there at the DNC convention, and she goes, my parents are suspicious of people who took too much. And right before she gets on her G5 to go back to one of her private islands where she has a mansion in some of the whitest neighborhoods in all of the world. Everybody knows that they're frauds. They're worth hundreds of millions of dollars. They ran to say that there's not. This is a good one. You want to get them? Here we go. Pull up Gallup poll race relations in America. Because this is what the Obama thing was all about. Obama said, my mom's white, my dad's black. It's not white America, black America, it's the United States of America. It's not red or blue, it's us together. Why don't we check out what happened while Barack Obama was president? Well, let's see here. Everybody said that race relations was just fine, and then Barack Obama got into office and decided to infect a virus into this country and use race for political purposes to try and separate us, to really rend and pull at the fabric of this country. And people are sick of that. People have seen the divisiveness. What did Barack Obama say right there when race relations collapsed in 2013? He said, Trayvon Martin's my boy.
If I had
Trayvon
a son,
Martin would
he'd
be my
look
son.
like Trayvon.
Yep. That's it. That's the destruction. And then he went and he fomented race riots in Ferguson, Missouri. We hadn't seen race riots in decades in this country. He fomented race riots in Ferguson, Missouri. People are sick of it. They see the Obamas for what they are, which are opportunistic goblins who are just in it for themselves. And anybody who's close to them will tell you that. And the failure of the Michelle Obama podcast is the world telling them, we don't care about you. Michelle Obama actually thought that hundreds of millions of people were waiting on bated breath to listen to everything she has to say to her eunuch brother, who somehow looks more feminine than she does.
Eunuch brother.
Adam.
But that's it.
Who do you got? Obama or
is that
Trump?
a city in Germany or something else?
Sorry.
So the
Sorry for the
question,
rant.
the question was, if they were both able to run a third term,
Yes.
would Obama beat Trump or would Trump beat
Yes.
Obama?
Please.
If I had to put money on it today, I would say Obama would be the favorite.
No.
But Trump would end up winning in the end, almost like Hillary Clinton in 2016. Because if you're just looking at the odds and the numbers, you know, you talked about approval ratings. I think Obama's highest approval rating was almost like 70% when he got elected. And then I want to say his like sustainable average, you can fact check that, sustainable average was basically in the high 40s. Trump's never been above 50% approval rating, ever. I think right now he's kind of trying to get there. Yeah, there it goes, 69, dude. So as far as approval ratings, it's going to come down to who the independents break for. So one thing I'll give Trump credit for, you talked about race relations. No. Trump has done an amazing job of killing wokeness, killing DEI, killing identity politics, killing cancel culture. Yes. You know, people thought that Trump was gonna lose when he was like, I thought Kamala was Indian, and all of a sudden she's black. People are like, oh my God, I can't believe he said that. People are like, no, that's exactly what happened with her. You know, with Tony Hinchcliffe, he's like, it's a floating piece of garbage called Puerto Rico. Like, oh my God. Yeah. Nobody cared. You know, Trump's Hitler. It's like, no, I'm not. Love the Jews. So Trump's faced so much backlash that they would put Obama as the favorite, but then Trump would just pull it out in the end. So I would go with Trump.
I disagree 1,000%. That whatever poll that was, whatever voters that they got, that's. I don't believe any of the polls. You want to talk about, so the approval ratings with Obama were that high because every media, everybody was worshiping him. He was trying to talk like he was Martin Luther King. It was all bullshit. All right, that whole change. Yes, we can. No, we can't. We didn't do. What did he do? What did he do besides make everybody hate each other in the country? Yep. Obamacare doesn't freaking care. It was all delusion. It was all divisiveness. And if, by the way, if there's a legal way for him to be the vice president again and then J.D. Vance, and they do it, I say do it. Anything to make these liberals go freaking nuts, I absolutely enjoy it. I was talking to Jillian outside. I love that these people go nuts for this guy. I don't know what it is. I absolutely love it. And I want him to get in because I want him to get into debates, Benny, and be like, so Crossfire Hurricane, Obama, those debates are going to be the best. So you were spying on my campaign. You guys set up Russia collusion. You and Hillary and the DNC, you guys were doing illegal shit to try to ruin me before I even got in. And bringing up Michelle Obama, can you imagine the debate points that he could bring up just with Michelle alone? Like Jimmy Carter died. You don't show up to the funeral? Your wife doesn't show up? How disrespectful is that? All the freaking stuff that he could bring up about his wife, I think he would murder him. It wouldn't be even fair.
Tom.
I think the pollsters are just, after the election, all the pollsters went to a B&B, but it's not what you think. Some of them became bored. The others became bankrupt because they can no longer fleece. That's what happened to the pollsters.
Yes.
And I think it's ridiculous that these polls are going up. It's like I just had a flashback, speaking of DeLorean, I went back 20 years to Saturday Night Live when all the drunk guys were talking about Ditka. It says, remember this? It says, remember,
Super
the
fans.
Bears. It says, remember, what do you think? Ditka versus all the angels in heaven. Ditka, but it's a field goal late. And it's like, that's what I feel like these polls are. It's like, with this, to me, it seemed a little bit crazy, but also, you know what it showed me? I backed off on that. So why are they doing this? It's crazy. Because it's desperate. It's desperate. Somebody had the poll do it because they want something and they got nothing.
Yeah.
And so what did they go do? They did what Joe Biden did. He didn't have the dollars, so he went and printed some. And they're out there and they're floating this. See, one of our guys could beat Trump. Well, he didn't, and Trump's in power. Dad's home. What are you doing?
Yeah, that's right. Obama's kissing the ring. We all saw him at the funeral. Obama's sitting right next to Trump, cracking jokes. How we doing? They were talking about golfing. That's what the lip reader said.
Yeah.
Obama wants to golf with Trump. Like, no, man. Obama's the one who said, I can't win. Obama sat that. Can we pull that up? The lip reading. I'm so sorry to abuse
Rob.
I know. I'm so
Rob's the
sorry,
best.
Rob.
Welcome
the
to the
lip
Benny
reading's
Johnson show
unbelievable.
today.
The first thing Obama. Here's your perfect response to that poll. The first thing Obama says is, "I knew you'd win," to Trump. You can
Beating
hear it.
Kamala.
Beating Kamala. That's
Yeah,
right. But
well,
the first thing,
Kamala and
there's like
Obama.
a professional lip reader that used AI to track what they were saying, and the first thing Obama says is, "I knew you'd win."
Yeah, of course.
I knew you'd win. And he's
Don't doubt it.
Oh no, that's a deaf girl. Sorry.
Well, she.
goodness, that's me. I mean, that's probably
There's
me
Benny.
responding to the clip. Yeah.
See if it's in here.
Yep. There it is.
Mr.
Hello, Mr. President. Yep.
President.
For a second time. Barack, very nice to see you.
Congratulations. So how you doing?
I'm a lot better, Dad.
Yeah, I bet. Knew you'd win.
Oh, really? Well, come on. Anyone could beat her.
Kidding
She's
me?
just...
I was just as appalled. You know what happened? He just didn't want to leave.
I know.
Is what happened. I did what I could to help her. She was horrendous.
I know. You know what I realized? Hillary still hates me. So much. I know. She'll never forget me.
Come on, boys.
We should meet to discuss.
I think so too. We can definitely set something
That's
up.
so
Let me know
funny.
whatever
Oh, we
works
got-
best for you.
I was going to fly back to Florida tomorrow for the golf.
Okay.
They're gonna golf together, man.
Oh, the photo. Of
And this
Hillary.
is the
Like,
real,
who wouldn't want? I
Benny,
mean,
this
you
is the
kind of
real
like
stuff.
want that.
This wasn't
What?
some of the joke stuff. That was the professional and the real stuff.
This is the professional lip reader with AI putting this together. I think the original. I think it was the New York Post that.
So what's the
actually-
likelihood that was
there were a
actually
lot
the
of them that were
conversation?
Well, I mean,
funnier than
what
that.
else
Yeah.
would he be talking about and smiling about? You know, it's about the loss, and you know he's probably like, "Yo, you couldn't even help her with your whole. Yeah, we have to rally the troops. No, you didn't rally anything.
It's so
bro."
believable. That's why that went viral. It's viral because it's so believable. You can see him saying these things.
By the way, people forget that caused a lot of controversy that they were sitting together. I said, I love it.
That's a great point.
Are you kidding me?
Yep. Yeah.
Where else in the world do you have literally mortal enemies come together at this is the funeral of Jimmy Carter, I believe?
Yeah.
And sit next to each other and have a conversation. I love it.
What was the other
You
event?
were upset
Here
by it,
comes the
Vinny. I
most
remember you
powerful
were.
liver
You had
in
your
the world
panties
right
in a
there.
bunch that Trump was sitting next to
100%
Obama.
right. You know why
You had to
I
change
disagree?
your panties. I
No, you know
remember.
why? Because he is we're talking about the enemy. Anybody that causes divisiveness and hates the country and then spies on the other guy and tries to destroy him, he's the enemy. I wouldn't sit next to him.
I have a
That's me.
question for everyone.
Yeah, he is.
I have
He's
a
the
question
enemy
for
of the
everyone
people.
on this panel, and I would never pretend to say I know who you supported in the year 2000 or 2004 elections. However, if you're looking for somebody who is a real dick to Donald Trump at this event, other than Michelle Obama, pun intended,
Mike Pence's wife.
then you would look at George W. Bush, who goes walking over to Barack Obama, chest bumps him, ignores Trump entirely
It's his cousin.
in his own party, and then pulls the curve. Laura Bush doesn't even acknowledge either man and walks right by him. So this is a president, the last Republican president, faced with the next Republican president. So his successor in the Republican Party Bush doesn't even acknowledge Trump's existence.
Well, that's his cousin, though.
So why-
These are literally two cousins. Look, those are two cousins. And it's what do you mean? They are cousins, Adam. They're related. Okay. Wait, let me guess. I'm lying, Adam? Do you know?
I'm sure they're the
because
best.
you don't
I'm sure
know.
they're
Because, Adam, here we go. You don't know.
No, you
Rob,
know.
are they cousins?
Fight.
Is Bush and Obama related? Are they related?
I know there's a story that
so they're
they,
cousins.
from like 500 years ago.
I don't give a damn. Oh, Barack Obama. Oh, it's 500 years, Adam, or is his 10th cousin?
10th cousin once removed.
It's his
Okay.
cousin.
You
It's
found
his
it,
cousin.
Benny. You're the man.
That's
You
why
got it.
That's why I act when I see my cousin.
That's like saying we're all.
Wait,
That's like saying we're all.
Sorry, Adam.
By the way,
Sorry.
through
10th
Samuel
cousin.
Hinckley of Cape Cod, who had a great grandson who shot Reagan.
That's
Weird.
That's weird.
No way. Is that true? So I know Hinckley's the name of the guy who shot Larry Reagan.
No, I
Is there
just
a
made
relation?
that shit up.
Oh, okay.
That's like saying
That's the same name. So
That's
you
like
don't
saying
know.
we're all 15th cousin because we're all the children of Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob.
Oh,
came
now
down
you're
the
doing
line
a
of
woozy
Jesus.
and a wazi and
Exactly.
a floozy.
But-
Whatever, Adam.
I was
That's
just,
all when I see my 10th cousin twice removed, I chest bump him when I
was
go
just
to the other guy.
following the line of
But
absurdity.
Benny, you bring up a good point. The whole conflict, and this is who Trump is, the fact that him and Bush, that whole basically, since the 2016 campaign when he was on stage with Jeb Bush, he's like, "You're low energy Bush. Rand Paul, you're ugly. Scott Walker, you're a loser." And just bing, 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 bing. He called out the Bushes.
Mm-hmm.
He called out George W. Bush.
Good.
Trump has not only taken the GOP, it's no longer the GOP. It's just MAGA now. And you had to pick a side. The Mitt Romneys are done. The Mike Pences are done. And it's just MAGA at this point. So I'm not shocked that the Bush oligarchy and the Trump legacy is not on the same page. Are you?
I mean, so the end of the Bush dynasty, tell me if you agree with this, chat. The end of the Bush dynasty was please clap. That was it. When Jeb goes,
please clap.
Please clap. Can you please clap for us? Talk about a real
that little campaign room out there. You could probably show that. But
yo, I'm from Iowa, so that's where I was raised, and this is where I went to school. And
This
you
part
can
right
tell.
here.
There it is. This is
told a joke.
Yeah.
I will be a commander-in-chief that will have the back of the military. I won't trash talk.
The half.
I won't be a divider-in-chief
half-zip.
or an agitator-in-chief. I won't be out there blowharding, talking a big game without backing it up. I think the next president needs to be a lot quieter, but send a signal that we're prepared to act in the national security interests of this country, to get back in the business of creating a more peaceful world. Please clap.
That was the death nail to the Bush legacy. You're absolutely right.
That's it. That's it. There's no coming back from that, bro. It's cooked.
That
You're
is
done.
the equivalent
You're
of being
done.
a stand-up
That's
comedian.
That's what we call a crash out. That's a crash out.
I fully agree.
And that's what we also call a real poll. So I'm from Iowa. The point is that when you can see who brings energy to rooms in Iowa, right? You can see with the candidates. Look at how sad that is. He's at a nursing home. He's at a hospice house, clearly like a hospice center, giving a speech in his little country club half zip. Yo, I am so glad that era of the Republican Party is done. They weren't Republicans, so I want to, if I may, correct you on. It's not MAGA. It's populism, nationalism. That's what Trump represents: nationalism and a very muscular populism in his policies. And I think that what clearly George W. Bush has represented, and what every president has represented for my entire lifetime, is globalism and the selling out of America. And that's the actual fight here. And it's a weird way to think about it, but that's what makes Barack Obama almost closer to Trump than Bush. Like if you were to look at the parties, it's all because what Barack Obama tried to do was almost kind of that. He of course failed, and I think he was a liar about it all. And when push came to shove, he chose divisiveness and obviously our enemies over America every day. But in the way that he communicates, that actually makes Obama and Trump closer than even a Bush, right? There's this crazy clip. Man, I hate to do this. There's a crazy clip of Bush saying, "What are the biggest evils facing America?" And it's way back in the day. It was when he was running in 2020, and he goes, in the year 2000, forgive me. And he goes, the biggest evils facing America today, got to do the Bush, facing America today are all of the isms, okay? Nationalism, populism, racism, and he puts them all together.
Jihad.
And he's like, it is like that. Wait a second, this is unbelievable, because this is actually, with the exception of the racism, this is actually talking about America first. Bush was actually running on a globalist platform. This guy doesn't even exist in the same solar system as Donald Trump.
Yeah.
Right. And so it's
remember
so that's
Bush
why.
Sr. in a State of the Union address turned to all of us and attempted to inculcate us with the idea of the New World Order.
Man. Yes.
I would say one thing. I would say that you said that Trump is closer to Obama. I would say that Trump is closer to Bernie Sanders.
Yeah.
That sort of
maybe
economic nationalism, populism. I remember people at the time, they were like, I'd vote for Bernie, I'd vote for Trump. Those two are complete polar opposites. And then Bush and Obama, they're more similar because obviously, they're 10th cousins. So there's a lot of family legacy right there.
Family comes first.
Here's the New World Order clip.
It's pretty wild going through this. Next story here. Rob, can you pull up the Anderson Cooper clip? This is Anderson Cooper. I mean, just a very embarrassing moment for him in his career. How do you mess this thing up? How do you not know? How does somebody as professional and being a Vanderbilt as yourself not know to properly introduce this young they, them by the proper pronouns? How do you not do that as a professional, Rob? Go ahead and play this clip, please. Go ahead.
Paul, we're back with Senator Bernie Sanders. I want to introduce Grace Thomas. She's a local civil rights attorney. She's a Democrat. Grace?
They, them pronouns, actually. Thank you.
Oh.
Good evening, Senator Sanders. Polling and turnout data indicate that men of all racial demographics are turning away from the Democratic Party. But of course...
Play that one more time, Rob.
Yeah.
Just one more time.
We're back with Senator Bernie Sanders. I want to introduce Grace Thomas. She's a local civil rights attorney. She's a Democrat. Grace?
They, them pronouns, actually. Thank you.
Oh.
Good evening, Senator Sanders. Polling and turnout data indicate that men of all racial demographics are turning away from
You know what I would have done right then and there? I'm like, no, time out. No, we're not doing that. Next person. I'm not playing that game.
Look at Bernie's face.
Yeah, Bernie, look at him. Bernie, he has no idea what's happening.
Well, she said they. He only sees one. He's trying to find.
Yeah, but
what do I call it? Whenever I use the pronouns them, I'm talking about all of my beach houses.
Yeah.
Them, those.
That's the face.
Those are the dems I'm talking about.
That's the
I am
face.
a socialist.
Look how look how confused. He's looking for more people inside of, he doesn't know what the hell is going on. And the fact that, I'm telling you right now, Anderson Cooper should have said, excuse me, ma'am, we're not playing that game. You're a girl. Ask the damn question. Like the fact that they're still to this day. Like what do you?
Be the end of his job in CNN.
I like Anderson Cooper. Sounds like he sat on Ice Cube. Oh
yeah. No, it's like give me a freak. And again, that's why this freaking party is going to be doomed for the longest time, bro. That is it. That's the clip right there to show you where they still are. They're not breaking. They're not deviating. They them. I would have been like, no, we're not. Who the hell are you? What's your name? You're one person. Next, move on. It's ridiculous.
Do you know what it is, though? Like for a CNN, there's been speculation the company's probably worth somewhere between $1.5 to $2 billion. And Zucker tried to raise some money a couple years ago to be able to buy it for $5 or $6 billion. Tom, we've talked about this before.
Yeah, Jeff Zucker, not Mark, right?
No, Jeff Zucker, not Mark Zuckerberg. Zucker, who was a former, who was he with them?
NBC,
CEO.
he's
Yeah,
a big guy.
Yeah. So, there's these conversations. Until CNN doesn't get back to common sense with things like this, the rest of the logical world is just not interested in watching them because it's an embarrassing thing that's going on right now. Even yesterday, Scott, what's his name?
Scott Jennings.
Scott Jennings. He had a moment yesterday on CNN. Did you see that's why he got fired? Did you see what Scott
Jennings got fired?
No. He told Scott Jennings tells this later.
How upset we got?
Fired. Yeah, just type in. You'll see. That's the one right there. Watch this clip, Rob. Watch this clip, Vinny.
You cannot just go and say, I like it, it's mine now. It doesn't work that way. Well, that is what they're trying to do. And in this New World Order, yeah, absolutely. When they're looking at Greenland and say, I like it, I want to take it for mine, that is a very colonizing
you have said you are. I have never ever said we're going to go to Greenland and quote colonize it or steal it.
You're not a member of government, so you're irrelevant at that point. I'm talking about the president of the United States doing that.
You got fired from your job.
If you want to engage in personal insults,
I don't, but you
what
do.
you lack in a legitimate point, you make up for in personal insults.
I don't. You
personal
do.
insults. The point I am making is in this New World Order, we are looking at countries, whether or not they're an adversary or ally.
Who is she that got fired?
She's a sassy woman. I know that.
She wants to hit him so bad.
Tiffany Cross is her name, and
Rob, your mic's not working, buddy.
Tiffany Cross. Can you hear me now?
Yours is not working.
She was the host of The Cross
I'm not crying, you're
Connection
crying.
on MSNBC.
When did she get fired?
It looks like 2022.
She really got fired in 2022?
It says MSNBC informed her production staff that her contract would not be renewed on November 4th, 2022.
Got it. So he's saying she got fired.
Down bad.
Yeah, so until CNN kind of gets their stuff together and brings more people like Scott, and they're going more logic. Their best talent right now is Scott Jennings. I call him the CEO of the company. He's run the company right now. He owns the entire property.
And if they don't have that,
they lose.
Nobody is watching CNN. The only reason that show is one of the most popular shows is because they kind of let him cook a little bit, even though they constantly tell him to shut up. He is surrounded by freaking, but jackals. You know what I mean? That he's just the only one that's spitting the truth.
The woman who corrected Anderson Cooper on the they them, that's not an anomaly. That is built into the system. At this point, you're not going to reverse that overnight. There's a story here, Pat, if you don't mind, I can read this.
Go for it.
The Air Force pulls back on personal pronouns and emails. The Air Force, Vinny, I know you were in the Air Force.
Yeah.
So the U.S. Air Force is reversing its ban on including preferred pronouns in email signatures and other professional communications. So they've rescinded an earlier directive to cease the use of preferred pronouns, a.k.a. he, him, she, her, they, them, our favorite thing, to identify one's gender and identical communications. So this is so baked into the cake already. It's not just one-offs, right? This is the Air Force that has they, them in their freaking emails. I told you the story the one time when I'm in the back of an Uber and this guy picks up, it's a Ford F-150, the back of an Uber. And I'm leaving actually CPAC of all places. And there's this dude, I'm talking a man's man, and I'm looking at the app, and I'm like, okay, Bill in a Ford F-150, he, him? Okay. So I'm sitting in the back of he, him's car, and I go, hey, Bill, I just got to ask you a question, dude. Did you want to put the he, him in there? Or did they make you do that? He goes, look, man, I'm just filling out the data, and I had to put it in the Dropbox, and I went with he, him. I didn't have a choice. I go, if you could reverse that, would you? And he's like, you record me right now, buddy? It's like, nah, just me and you. He goes, he, him. Like, I want that bullshit. Like, he had to check
Who's
it.
this?
He was the Uber driver. He had to check it in order to basically sign up for Uber in this case. So that's what I'm saying. It's so baked into the cake that one-off lady criticizing Anderson Cooper, companies infuse that. Now we're starting to see companies basically reduce their DEI, reduce their ESG, but it's going to take a while. It's not going to happen
real quick,
overnight.
you hear about the military? You talk about the military. Did you hear about the military? I think she was like a NATO colonel or somebody. She refused to put Trump and what's his name's J.D. Vance's photo up. They relieved her of her duty.
Yeah.
They're like, you're not going to put the photo of the president out. But yeah.
Okay, last story here. We're going to get into 2 or 3 stories and then we'll wrap up. Here we go. This one's a very technical story, but very important story. To anybody that's a business owner, this is how you get creative. Restaurant offers diners a bigger discount to skinnier people.
Have you seen this, Benny?
So the skinnier you are, they're giving you a 20% discount.
I don't think you tried
Watch
hard enough.
this.
This is amazing.
I told him oatmeal. Is that your friend?
Yeah, I told him oatmeal.
Push him. Never met him in my life. Stop. You need some butter.
If he can make it through, 15% discount.
And they're watching you to see it,
Yes.
right?
Yes.
Oh, can you do 10? Hold on, he's doing it.
Oh no, he's
Oh
gonna
my
get,
gosh.
What if he gets
You
stuck?
got the head.
He's gonna take the whole thing.
What?
RFK is going to mandate these at every
So he ends up getting
Golden
what?
Corral.
No, keep playing
Every
it.
Golden Corral.
Should
If
have
you
that.
want to come
You're
in
good
here,
for
you
5,
slob.
30 seconds.
Yeah. You want to come in here and mainline seed oils.
You got 5%.
Yeah. You got to get through. You got to get
That's a
through
skinny
the RFK fat camp humiliation bars.
What do you think about
Right?
this?
Look all the way to the right. There's the full price.
How big is the full price, Rob?
Full price is anybody.
Rob barely fit in the full price bar.
The full price one, I think, is just wide open. It's like, what?
Yeah, it
By
doesn't show.
the way, what do you think about this? You go up to a restaurant and you see this. What do you think about this?
It's great. I mean, it's great. I mean, first off, it's good fun, and everyone's clearly having a blast there. And then second off, who doesn't want a healthier country? And if you can't fit through the first 3 rails, do you really need to get the fried egg rolls? Like, do you really need them? You know, this is in Thailand, where this restaurant is. So, like, if you can't fit through the first 3 bars, if you can't get through the rails, no wontons for you.
Yeah, but what kind of anorexia? Look at the 20%. You have to be a freaking toothpick to get into that. Like, what kind of girls are you taking out on dates? Like, listen, get your ass through there. Get your bony ass through the 20%.
Right, so then if you get a 20% discount, you're going to eat more, Put some meat on the bones.
I think, like Benny said, it's creative, it's fun. And I guarantee you, like, couples are like, it's gonna make you be like, yo, you know what? I need to lose a couple.
RFK just roasted the governor of West Virginia, just to his face. He said, "You're fat." He just said, "You're fat." Like lay off.
Play
on
that
the
clip
flaming
up. We
Cheetos.
have that one.
Did he really?
And he did.
Yeah.
He said, "I'm gonna put you through fat camp." RFK said it to his face. He's standing there on stage. That's the governor.
It looks like you ate the prior governor.
Yeah, that's right.
Play it. Play
I'm for it.
Yep. I said to Dr. Morris, or Governor Morrissey, the first time I saw him, I said, "You look like you ate Governor Morrissey." and there was a lot of talk about getting healthy again, and I'm very happy that he's invited me to be his personal trainer. And I am going to put him...
Oh, my God.
I'm going to put him on a really rigorous regimen. And we're going to put him on a carnivore diet.
Yes.
We're going to make him raise your hand if you want Governor Morrissey to do a public weigh-in once a month.
Oh, I love that.
Whoa! And then when he's lost 30 pounds, I'm going to come back to the state and do a celebration and a public weigh-in with him.
That's just amazing.
Dude, I love that.
The Trump administration is bringing back bullying. If you rethink a lot of the old comedies and a lot of the old films from the 80s, the bullies enforce the societal norms and the standards, right? And he's bringing back bullying. This I think is one, comedy gold. It's funnier than SNL what RFK Jr. did there, and then two, well, listen, you're going to live a healthier, better life.
And you know something else? Pat and I will understand that. Oh, no, Adam will understand it too, because where we come from. You know what we were seeing there? It says, I thought I was looking at the underwriting model for the average life insurance policy. Because the healthier you are, the better price you get.
That's very interesting.
And so it's comical to see it at a restaurant, but you know what happens in real life? The healthier you are, you get benefits in this life.
Interesting.
Yeah, I mean, it's the exact opposite of what's going on in America for the last 5-10 years. I mean, this happened, I believe, in Thailand. So the chances of this happening in America are non-existent. They would just have... You have to go through these bars to get in there. They would just... Our fat, sloppy, overweight people here in America...
Aren't they making people pay for double plane tickets now?
Exactly.
There's airlines that are now charging people
of
for
course,
double
because
seats.
they're trying to reverse the ridiculousness that's been sort of pervasive in our country. I mean, half the people in America right here just go through the front door, buddy. You ain't getting through any of these bars right now. You might have to pay double. But all these things, like, do you remember when they were basically saying, so if you have bad credit, you actually will get a lower rate on your mortgage or your credit card because you've been paying your bills late and you haven't been establishing good credit. So you're going to get preferred treatment in the banks and the economic system. It's like, how does that make any sense? Or like you mentioned, if you're fat, you're big boned, and they want to give you a free seat. It's like, no, you got to pay double for those seats. It's the reversion. It's just reversing the imbecility of what's been happening here. I guarantee you one thing. When Trump is president, you will not see a trans woman win a beauty pageant. Do you remember how many trans women have won beauty pageants all across America, all across the globe?
A trans woman bought the beauty pageant.
Yeah.
Those days are
For
done.
women, by all women,
those days are
and
done.
it was a dude talking.
Yeah, those days are done. So,
all right, let's go to the next story. Ben Shapiro says Peter Navarro should be nowhere near trade policy. This is Media Matters. Ben Shapiro hosts. Okay, so is this a clip, Rob?
Yes.
Go for it.
Well, this has led to what is the most obvious proxy battle in the administration between Peter Navarro and Elon Musk. Elon Musk has been just beating the living hell out of Peter Navarro online. He called him yesterday Peter Retardo.
Peter Retardo.
You're so funny. Peter Navarro said to Elon Musk, he said that Elon's a car manufacturer, but he's not a car manufacturer. He's a car assembler. And then Elon responded, quote, Navarro is truly a moron. What he says here is demonstrably false. and then again called him Peter Retardo and said he was dumber than a sack of bricks. I mean, I'm on Elon's side of this one. Gotta be honest with you, I think that Navarro's policies here are ridiculous in the extreme.
His eyebrows are
The White House
huge.
was asked about this, and Caroline Leavitt gave the best response. She says that this is boys will be boys. Yeah, except one of these boys built trillions of dollars of value in the economy, and the other one of these boys used a pseudonym, Ron Vera, in order to promote his cockamamie economic policies. So one of your boys is Doogie Howser over here, and the other one of your boys is the bizarre dude from the Goonies. So great. Here we go.
These are obviously two individuals who have very different views on trade and on tariffs. Boys will be boys, and we will let their public sparring continue. And you guys should all be very grateful that we have the most transparent administration in history. And I think it also speaks to the president's willingness to hear from all sides.
And Caroline Leavitt.
Benny, I want to ask Benny. Benny, can I ask you a question?
Yeah.
I don't know. Something in the past year has happened to this guy. I used to watch Ben Shapiro. When he was on Piers Morgan and showing the Constitution and being that guy. And this is in regard to Trump. And I want to ask you this question. So in 2016, he backed Ted Cruz. Okay, and then lately, is it just me? He's just been anti-Trump with his rhetoric. And mind you, Trump, he's the most pro-Israel person on the planet. Trump is the most pro-Israel president that we've had. This is from Bibi Netanyahu. He's complaining that Israel took off the tariffs. He's like, but Trump is still putting tariffs on Israel. He came out a couple weeks ago and he said,
I have a friend in the jewelry business.
Yeah, exactly. And then Betty, he goes, I think Trump should pardon Derek Chauvin, which, if you really think about it, what that would do to the country and to his presidency would be nuts.
Terrible idea.
Horrible. So I was wondering,
idea.
what do you think about? Is it his what do you think he hates about Trump? Is it politics, or he just has a personal issue with Trump?
I think Ben Shapiro has always disliked Trump, and he's made that very clear. I think that the Daily Wire has gone through some rocky times as a company, and I think that they're trying to cozy up to Trump for that exact reason, right? To try and reset the company. But listen, America first means America first. That means that this country, our children are going to be raised in this country. We put this country ahead of other countries. And so whether it's a Ukrainian flag or whether it's an Israeli flag, I'm against anybody who's going to sit here and try and co-opt a movement and say, but actually I'm going to be a dual citizen, or I'm going to be in favor of some other country over America. I'm going to see some other country as an escape. And I don't that just doesn't matter. There's Ukraine flags in my neighborhood. They sicken me. I'm disgusted by it. I feel the same way about that as I would about a Chinese flag, right, hanging in the neighborhood during this trade war. I think that you have to choose, and it goes back to the metaphor of turning the lights on and see who's trading in favor of your company and investing in the equities of your company, and who has their foot out the door or is betting against you. Now, to the point that Ben is making here, and I think that's part of the drop-off, right? Is part of the drop-off is the America First movement. There's been a lot of people that have tried to glom onto that, right? When it's convenient or when it's the popular thing to do. And a lot of people who've backstabbed President Trump when it's fashionable to do that. And I think that's where the struggle is coming from with Shapiro, to his point here about the team of rivals is what they called it with Lincoln, right? When you have people in your staff that are fighting each other. This is a very good thing. This is a very positive thing. You need fresh minds, and you need smart people, and you need people that are that believe in something so much they'll fight for it. And that's a very positive thing to have in your country. It's a very positive thing to have in your company. It's a very positive thing to have in your administration.
What was your problem with what Ben said, though? What did Ben say that you didn't like?
You're asking Vinny, or you're asking?
I'm asking both of you guys.
Well,
Peter Navarro went to prison for Trump. Yep. Peter Navarro decided he got charged by the DOJ because he wouldn't communicate with the January 6th committee. So calling him a bozo or whatever pejorative, I think that's deeply.
He said that's what Musk called him, a moron.
Right. So I just think that all I'm trying to say here is that the team of rivals is good, and you should want that. And whatever anyone's personal opinions on this, it's very powerful to have people that believe in what they believe so strongly that they'll fight for it. Donald Trump, just this week, brought Bill Maher to the White House. That is an unbelievable genius move. Bill Maher is a weapon for his enemy. Donald Trump is first off, it shows total magnanimity for Donald Trump. Donald Trump's bringing in people that are the weapons for his enemies and then turning those weapons against his enemies. What does Bill Margo do? Sits down with Chris Cuomo and has this like lavish conversation about how much he loves Trump. He literally says, I love this guy. And that is a total 180 reversal for one of the most powerful voices on the left that was calling Donald Trump Hitler just a couple of weeks ago. And so I think it's a genius move. This is what Trump's always done in his businesses. And so this is, this I think is a huge quality of Trump, not an error.
Adam.
I'll just get right to it. So whether it was Ben Shapiro or whether it was anybody else commenting on this, the issue that you're bringing up with the team of rivals, that is the point. Whether Ben is pro-Trump or anti-Trump or pro-Elon is almost irrelevant to me. It's the two factions that now coexist within the White House. You're very apropos with the whole team of rivals. So I talked about this the last time when we were dealing with the whole H-1B visa situation. You have MAGA 1.0 that basically started in 2015, and you have MAGA 2.0 10 years later in 2025. And Peter Navarro is basically like the economic nationalist version of Steve Bannon. He is MAGA 1.0. He's basically very against the technocracies and the big corporations and what's happened here in America. And then you have Elon Musk sort of representing the more libertarian-leaning corporations, maybe a little bit more friendlier to China version of globalism, wanting people, bringing in the brightest minds in the world. Remember when Vivek was dealing with all the drama? Who was Vivek fighting with specifically? Was it JD Vance? Who was Vivek fighting on over the H-1 visa situation? Do you remember that?
I don't remember who he was.
But the point is, it was the Steve Bannon wings of the party.
It was Bannon.
It was Bannon. Yeah. That's what it was right there. But those that is the now current makeup of the team of rivals. And I'll just say this: MAGA 1.0, you needed Elon to win. You needed people like Vivek to win. So when Steve Bannon gave that Trump basically saying, we want converts to the party, but you sit in the back of the room. Remember he said that to Elon Musk? If I'm Elon Musk and I'm looking at Steve Bannon, I go, who the fuck are you? What role are you playing at this point? I put $250 million into this campaign. I'm doing Doge. You're just a talking dude on the internet at this point, homie. So is MAGA 1.0, the Peter Navarro, Steve Bannon wing of the party important? Of course it is. That's the base. But you needed somebody else to get you across the finish line. So they each need to respect each other, and the team of rivals should coexist. But again, Team Elon is basically where I'm at.
Yeah, I think what Daily Wire right now is going through and the stories that are out there, I get it. That's annoying. Running a business is very hard, especially when you're public. So you got to try to balance running a business and deal with the public life. That's very difficult. It's very annoying. And sometimes you take a position and then you're like, oh, shit, maybe I could have approached it differently. Or you took that position and that 100% is you, and you're going to get some flack with that position they're going to have. So whatever they're going through. In a situation like this with Navarro and Musk, she's right. Credit goes to Trump that he's okay with these guys on his team debating each other to see who's going to come up with the better idea. I actually love it. I love seeing this, that they're able to go back and forth. Same situation when Musk was having issues with Altman. He says, look, both of these, they don't like each other. Yeah. It's a lot of people I don't like. What do you want me to do? They don't like each other. They got to deal with it. It is what it is. I'm okay with it. It means he's been in situations like that of running a company, running a sales team, and having 5 kids that sometimes the kids are going to go through, and you got to let them flush it out and go through it. This isn't his first rodeo. Got to love the fact that he has that kind of experience. All right, let's go to the next one here. Next story. Florida Senate approves ban on geoengineering and weather modification. Vinny, I'm coming to you with this one here. Let's take a look. Rob, do you have a clip on this?
I do. This is Governor Ron DeSantis talking about the bill.
Go for it.
Senator Ileana Garcia has legislation in the Florida Senate to ban geoengineering and weather modification in the state of Florida. I support the legislation. However, the Florida House of Representatives has gutted Senator Garcia's legislation, and they would actually codify the practice of geoengineering and weather modification. People got a lot of kooky ideas that they can get in and put things in the atmosphere to block the sun and save us from climate change. We're not playing that game in Florida. I support what Senator Garcia is doing, and I hope that people will tell the House of Representatives in Florida, do not gut this bill.
Vinny.
Do you realize what he's saying, right? You guys know what geo modification and Rob, we talked about this on the Unusuals. I just want to make a point. This is another theory that we've all been talking about, that everybody calls us nuts about weather modification and chemtrails and all the stuff that they put in the air, and it turns out that we're right. It's actually happening, and he's saying we don't want it in Florida. They put stuff in the air pad that makes the sun reflect so we don't get hot because of the temperature. And it's like he called it out and said that we don't want it in Florida. So that just proves, Tom, they're trying to do it. If not, they have been doing it. And that's what they do. They mock us. They say that we're crazy. They say we talk nonsense until the documents come out and a freaking governor has to come out and say, stop it and don't do it. And think about it. All this stuff that they spray in the air, we're breathing it. It's coming on our plants. It's going on the food. And then we wonder why respiratory disease is up. Cancer is up. The food is trash. Everybody's getting poisoned, and the water sucks, and they act like it's business as usual. So it's not a freaking theory. It's another lie that's been exposed, and I love it.
Well, you know what's really interesting about this when you dive into it? You know who the penalty is for?
Who?
It's for aircraft operators.
Weird.
So we're going to fine $100,000 or $5,000 and 5 years in prison for aircraft operators. So guess who you're not talking about? The companies that are making the chromium sulfate and all these other things that are in the atmosphere.
Aluminum oxide, too.
Correct. And there's things that they put up there to prevent global warming and reflect the sun. But there's other things they put up there because they want to create cloud seeding and they want it to rain. And so why would this be an issue in the state of Florida? Well, because we have a big agricultural industry here, and you've got companies that's like, hey, I like to help the agricultural industry. You pay me this, and I'll fly around, see if I can make it rain. Well, they can't. So I don't know why this doesn't attempt to make the chemicals illegal, because what they go after says it's a third-degree felony. So in other words, it's the guy that flew the dope, but the dope's legal.
Yeah, exactly.
Remember, I mean,
it's what it says.
How old are you? This is like are you old enough to remember Alex Jones with like a Nokia camera? Be like, it's chemtrails. It's chemtrails. You see them? They're chemtrails. And now that used to be like the cuckoo pants thing. You're a crackpot if you believe that. Now it's like you have to write legislation against it. So who are the crackpots?
And Benny, how many more things do they have to come out that we have to be like, we told you so? How many more documents? How much more CIA stuff? There's another, Pat, another story about the CIA. Pat, about Hitler. Do you mind?
Go for it.
Hitler. So the CIA files reveal that the search for Hitler in South America, 10 years after his suicide, as Argentina prepares right now to release classified documents on Nazi fugitives. And Rob, you did a story on Unusuals, right? Even the skull of Hitler. What did they find out?
Well, so the Russians tested the skull that they found in the bunker, and what they say the skull that they claim belonged to Adolf Hitler was actually the skull of a woman in her 30s or early 40s.
Which would have been Ava Braun. So the CIA...
Wait a minute.
Yeah.
Hitler was a girl?
No, well, I heard he wears dresses.
Whoa. Hitler was a they, them?
Yeah, he's they, them. So
Hitler started the
Hitler's proper pronouns.
Yeah, Adam's hilarious. No, but Adam, so the CIA files are saying that the CIA was searching for a guy that everybody said committed suicide in this bunker, but they knew Hitler might have escaped, so they kept looking for him for 10 years after. But in the public eye, they told that he was dead. Okay, they chased leads to South America, South Africa, and Colombia. They had names, they had locations, and they followed tips from people who claimed they saw him. And all that time, the American people were fed a fairy tale that he was in a bunker, and that's a photo that they said that was leaked, right? Rob?
Yes, and that's him with another guard from the SS who had escaped to South America.
Yeah, so apparently, and from stories, Rob, allegedly in the news, Argentina was a safe haven for Nazis. Not a theory. It's a fact. Thousands fled there. The country is now preparing, like I said, to release the documents that could show who funded them, who moved them there, who protected them, and that silence wasn't an accident. It was by design. And again, going back to my point, they lied to, how many times have we been lied to? JFK, weapons of mass destruction, lied about Vietnam, lied about COVID, lied about Epstein, lied about every single thing that matters. And every time something like this comes to light, Benny, they're just like, okay, yeah, you guys were next, and we move on. I think it's ridiculous. I think
so the Hitler files come out before the Epstein files. Didn't have that on my bingo card.
Nice. So it's called a rat line.
Yeah.
A rat line was a line that was a way of travel for tens of thousands. They know that at least 10,000 or more Nazis got out of Germany through Spain to Spanish South America. And this is how rat lines worked. And some of the biggest names actually in some of the Nazi leadership got out through here. I think Joseph Mengele did.
Yep. He was the worst.
Yeah, that's
He
right.
was experimental doctor.
Yeah, that's right. And they went and they lived. Some of them lived till very old ages in Argentina, and I think we're never caught. And so that's something that did happen. That's 100% real. Some of them traveled by boat. Some of them traveled by submarine. And there are zero forensic remains of Adolf Hitler that has ever been uncovered inside of a bunker in Germany or in the Soviet spy museum.
Yeah, and by the way, the CIA, you don't chase a dead man unless you know he didn't die. Period. What are they searching for? You're not searching for Hitler if it doesn't make any sense. You know what I mean, Tom?
Yeah, it's like the people that say that Ken Lay didn't die, and Ken Lay went down to Belize.
And was chilling there for a while.
Right. Yeah. You read the same thing. And so someday are we going to find out that people with powerful friends like escaped and got to some other places? You know, what I love is that God is a just God and they cannot run God.
Amen.
Yes, that's right. Is Epstein alive, or was that like a fake Epstein on the
Well,
stretcher?
he interviewed the brother, and what did the brother say?
He had a lot of things to say. I mean, a lot that day when he came in. But in regards to whether he's alive or not, he's saying they killed him.
Oh.
That's what he said.
The brother did.
The brother said they killed him.
Because people have the photos, and they're like, that's not actually
my
Epstein.
brother didn't
That's
kill
not what his
himself.
nose looked like.
I said my brother didn't kill himself. Okay, that's what it was.
Yep. Adam, your thoughts on
They
this?
flipped the breaker.
I'm just sitting here learning a lot. I thought we were talking about geoengineering and weather modification, and I'm just glad that we confirmed that the Holocaust did happen.
Yeah.
Thank you. Because there's been a lot of debate about that. So thank you for confirming. When we talked about Ron DeSantis, I didn't think we were going Hitler. But Vinny,
well, you didn't know.
we went there.
Well, you didn't know that
So thank
Obama
you.
and
I
Bush
love that.
Jr. were cousins.
10
You don't-
cousins. So
Adam, I'm here to teach you.
No, you're teaching.
I have to
You're
teach
teaching
you.
all of us.
I got to shake your
that
little head. And get it.
I learned a
up.
lot.
Thank you.
You know, being born and raised in Miami, I've never had to worry about whether it's raining or not. It happens. I didn't think that Hitler'd come up in here. When I think about making it rain, being in Miami, I'm thinking of Fat Joe and Lil Wayne at Club 11. That's what I'm thinking about.
Yeah.
But thank you for clarifying and thank you for teaching.
But here's
Vinny. I'm going to enroll in Vinny's geoengineering class coming soon.
But question to you.
In your unusual suspect circle.
But question to you, does it bother you at all that the governor of the state that you live in is saying, don't spray stuff in the sky to mess with Florida? Now, hold on, Adam. And I'm talking about the stuff that just comes, we're by an airport, right? The stuff that just comes out of the fuel alone is not good for us. I get it, we still have to fly. But if they're spraying stuff because they think that we're messing up the atmosphere and the ozone, that should be a problem. And it goes to my point that what the Hitler story came in is they have been lying forever. And this is just another one. The Hitler one was just in my one of the stories.
Who's they?
They, them.
They, them.
They, them.
That's a callback.
Yeah.
Got to make sure.
So it's more than one.
Yeah, it's more than one.
Well, Vinny, I'm just genuinely grateful that you're on this topic.
Yeah.
And I'm just going to focus on, the markets
the
and
tariffs
then
and
all that.
terrorists. Yeah.
You just keep in touch with geoengineering Hitler.
Let me ask you a question.
And maybe they'll bring Hitler back with the woolly mammoths and the saber-toothed tiger.
That's the scary part.
Exactly.
Yeah, the woolly
How did I know you were going to...
bring back Hitler. Adam, they should bring back Hitler, raise him so you could kill him.
Yes,
right?
Sir. If you had a chance to kill baby Hitler, would you? Yes, I would.
You would. We are just all over the place.
Yeah,
right now. Go to the website and get the future looks like bong, so you can think this way.
Are you anything else with the two of you guys, or you guys are good?
I think we're good.
No, him and her, they, them. We're going to go have lunch after this.
Yeah, you and they, them.
All right, let's do this last one here, okay? Panama Canal. Panama files criminal charges against Chinese-linked canal port owner, C.K. Hutchinson, for breach of contract. So, Tom, when I'm reading this, what it tells me is the fact that they want U.S. to own that place, not China to own that place. That's kind of how I'm reading this. Let me read the whole story, and then I'll come to you.
Panama's getting a phone call. That's what happened.
Well, Panama's getting a phone call. I see what you're saying. Got it. So, Rob, I'm trying to find a page. I don't know if I got it here. So, Tom, why don't you tell us what's your biggest takeaway from the story with Panama Canal and Panama not being happy about it?
So Panama's Comptroller General, so this is a government official. This is like the guy in their, Congressional Budget Office equivalent in Panama, is saying that a criminal complaint by the government has been filed against Panama Ports Company, which is a subsidiary of Hong Kong-based Hutchison Whampoa or Hutchison Port Holdings, which is the WK Hutch and the guy Li Ka-shing. And so what people are speculating, and I am, and I don't think this is a conspiracy, it seems kind of weird that a deal with BlackRock was almost done for the two key ports, because there's many ports, but there's the key ones, Balboa and whatever the other one is, Diego, whatever it is.
Diego Garcia?
Yep. No, that's in the Indian Ocean. That's the base. But anyway, there's two key ports there that BlackRock had this big deal to buy from Li Ka-shing. And all of a sudden, he gets a phone call, apparently, from Beijing that says, maybe slow roll your purchase here. And he said, well, I'm still upset with you. And they said, I told you to slow roll your purchase. And then Panama comes out because the U.S. government was the ones that wanted BlackRock to buy this thing. The administration thought it was a really good idea for BlackRock to do this. So I feel like the CIA or somebody has called Panama and says, excuse me, it is a really good idea for BlackRock to do this. Yeah, well, China is stopping the Hutch guy, Li Ka-shing. He said, are they behind on their rent payments? Have they paid their taxes? Do they have any outstanding parking tickets?
They're behind a lot, by the way.
And turns out they're behind on more than a parking ticket.
That's right.
There's like $300 million.
That's right.
And then we said, perfect. Start the process to seize it. And that's what this is. This is the government starting the process basically to foreclose, is basically what you have here, which is exactly what the U.S. would want. And it says, because we can have a little auction and, BlackRock will show up and win the auction. And then they get the ports anyway. So I feel like what we're watching here is a 3D chess game with the ports in Panama being played because it is strategically important to do what needs to be done here. And I think it's going to get done one way or another. And this is one of the or anothers.
Got it. Benny, do you have any opinions on this, on Panama Canal?
The Panama Canal is ours. What I mean by that is it's sovereign American territory. The only reason the Panama Canal exists is because America went and built it. And then when it was built, it was American sovereign land for 10 miles north and 10 miles south once the canal was built. Mm-hmm. That lasted for 100 years. Why we gave that back is so stupid and it's so dumb. It is ours. You go down there, there are American military bases, there's American construction. The entire thing was totally laid with American blood. And so this has kind of this history to it that is not Chinese, that does not belong to our enemies, and I think it should belong back to America. I really do. I think it's like claiming almost like a birthright for something that wouldn't have been possible without our country. Other nations tried to do it. France started the Panama Canal. They couldn't complete it. They couldn't get it done. And they failed. They abandoned it. And it was America that stepped in. And also, one final thing, very interesting. Panama's not a real country. Panama belonged to Colombia. Panama became a real country with American might and naval resources to build the Panama Canal. So Panama should thank us, the leaders of Panama should thank us for the existence of their country, just like China.
Do we have a clip of Pete Hegseth talking
people
about?
forget about that part. Panama literally was the Alaska for Colombia. It was this thing way over here that you owned.
Interesting.
Yep, that's right.
What is this, Rob?
This is Pete Hegseth. He was at the canal, I believe this was yesterday or on Tuesday, where he talks pretty much about what Penny
so that's
had said.
Panama City, Panama, not Panama City by Florida. That's it.
Correct. It's at the canal.
Panama City nightlife is phenomenal.
Spring break. It is spring break time of year.
Yeah,
Secretary Pete's also in favor of that. So
go ahead.
That's messed up, bro.
No, it's not. He likes to party.
Tom. Go ahead.
Rob, you want to go ahead, buddy?
Panama and the United States less secure, less prosperous, and less sovereign. And as President Donald Trump has pointed out, that situation is not acceptable. We are grateful to President Molino, Minister Abrego, and your teams, along with the Panama Canal Authority, for responding to these threats and safeguarding the canal. President Molino's decision to withdraw from the Belt and Road Initiative reflects his government's clear understanding of China and the threat it poses. I want to be very clear. China did not build this canal. China does not operate this canal. And China will not weaponize this canal. Together with Panama in the lead, we will keep the canal secure and available for all nations through the deterrent power of the strongest, most effective, and most lethal fighting force in the world.
That does kind of look like right outside of Club La Vila in Panama City.
That does
Beach,
look
Florida.
like it.
I just thought for a second. Adam, go ahead.
No,
Your thoughts,
I
and
think
we'll
what I
wrap
find
up.
it's interesting is that of all people to be speaking about this, why the Secretary of Defense, not Secretary of Commerce, not anybody who specializes in trade, not
Rubio.
Yeah, not Rubio, Secretary of State. Like, why Department of Defense? That's my only question. Is
Because it was because Panama exists because of the American military. Panama was part of a different country. We decided as an American military movement and strategy to break that off, to align with the Panamanian Independence Party, and to make Panama. We made Panama.
We made
Kinda like
Panama
Greenland
great again?
We made Panama great again, and Greenland, you have the same argument. Greenland was administered after Denmark fell to the Nazis in a second. Greenland then technically was like, what are we going to do over here? And it was minutes before Nazi submarines and U-boats were showing up on Greenland.
Yeah.
It was the American military that protected that island and that protected that island in our hemisphere and was the administrator of it for the entire war. And we get no thanks for that. Instead, they spit in our faces. And so I love the return to Pax Americana. I freaking love it. Living in the golden era.
What I think is so incredible is, we talked about this the other day, but like how Trump is going to, where would he deal with Iran? Yet we're dealing with the border, we're dealing with Russia, we're dealing with Ukraine, with Israel. We got Greenland, we got Panama, we're making the Gulf of America. There's so much stuff going on that when did you ever think about the Panama Canal before Trump? When did you think about Greenland?
That's right.
When did you think USA is taking over Gaza? He's doing I don't even know if this guy sleeps at this point.
I literally
don't even know
what's going on. Now, let me tell you what did happen earlier today that everybody on the news is reacting to. So at the border, this guy's. Did you see this clip of the guy jumping? So there's this, Rob, if you can prepare this. So there's a guy. Look at this. This immigrant, illegal immigrant. Look, watch this.
What is this?
Flies in, press play.
What is this? These are the
Flies
kind
in
of
on a
people.
plane.
Okay. We need these people out of our country.
This is the border.
Oh,
This
no.
guy just comes
Who
over.
the hell is that?
No.
Eagle
Look at this
Pass
guy.
Airfield.
So he looks European, like maybe even a German going to Argentina.
German, maybe he's
a
a
Russian.
Watch
A
this.
Russian.
Watch this.
What the?
no.
This guy
what
works
a
out.
show.
This guy works out.
Look at
Look
this.
at this.
Barbed wire, dude. What kind of wall do we have, bro?
What? And he's in shorts.
Look at this
What
guy's
a
legs.
loser.
What a stud.
That is,
Who is this guy?
Third world scum.
Dude, he has
Oh,
a-
that's
Get him
Klein.
and there's a Chinese
Look at
guy.
Klein.
Oh my, Benny comes in
He's got to go
style,
home.
bro.
They've got to go home.
And he's got a backpack full of fentanyl.
It's a mule. There's his mule.
That's his mule.
He's the cartel. This guy's a cartel, and he's got his mule with him.
What a drug
What's
dealer.
going on?
Benny, that's a
This
gangster
is
ass
sick.
move right
Build
there. Hop in
the wall.
Wow. You didn't want to wait.
Guys,
till-
I told you, walls don't work.
And
You can go
guys,
over it.
last
you go
but
under
not
it.
Gotta
least,
go home.
Today's a great
before we
day.
wrap up,
Send him home
today's
to
a great
Tampa.
day. Today is the greatest man's birthday today. My dad today
Gabriel!
turns 83.
No way.
83.
I
The man.
love it.
He turns 83 today. Pop, atin bete daddy. You're probably going to see this year. Happy birthday. Family loves you. We love you here. You're incredible. That's him right there in the picture. Look at that picture to the left. Zoom in a little bit, Rob, if you can. Is there a way to zoom in the pictures?
With DJT?
Yeah,
Rob?
look at that. That's
Look at
him
that.
and Trump at the podcast set with the family, with the kids, with everybody. Even Vinny. Look at Vinny at the beginning. Go to the other side,
Where am
Rob,
I
to
at?
see which picture you got of. Is there a Vinny pic in
There
here?
is. It's right down
There
here.
it is. Which is this one?
Look at that.
You and Tico, as
Old
usual, talking
school.
politics. You and Papa.
Look at that. Talking politics from back then.
Yeah. And that's Little Dilly Boy and Grace and Shawnee. Look at that one
Oh
right there.
my
No, that's Tico
God.
Boy.
That's what?
Look how small he is.
Oh my
Look
goodness.
how small he is. Anyways, Pop.
Happy birthday.
Happy
you, Pop.
birthday. We love you. We will see you soon. And we're going to have a good time. To another great year. We'll see you. Anyways, Penny, great to have you on. This was a blast.
This was
Looking
a blast.
forward to doing this again.
Amazing. Do you have any behind-the-scenes Trump story for us when he was here? Anything you have never told anyone?
Yes.
Since he's on screen.
Wow. Yeah, we have some real good ones. Real good ones that because in the middle of it, something had to happen.
Oh, yeah.
Where they had to leave 45 minutes early, and we had prepared for a 90-minute interview. And it was a 3-minute negotiation live. We had to cut that clip. And he and I and 9 people in front of us. Rob's in the room. Rob, we're going back and forth. And then right there, he told us, we got to go 45 more minutes. And then we did the whole hour-and-a-half interview.
Sick.
The guy was a blast. From the beginning, he came into the end. His team, class acts, phenomenal, easy to deal with, smooth. Even them, even though they have the guy that's the president, the billionaire, the celebrity, they were hospitable, they were respectful, class act, beginning to the end.
Yep.
Beginning to the end. And it was great to see. It was great to see with them. Anyways, guys, take care. God bless. Do we have tomorrow, podcast with Ilya Taporio is going out, and then we'll do this again next week. Take care. Bye-bye, bye-bye.